What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to one of our very favorite videos of the year. It is club season. It is mid-September. We don't need to talk about when exactly in September it is in relation to the actual start date of this league. Well, I'm sure we'll get into it because it is already well underway, and we are here to preview for the third annual time, I suppose. It's time to talk about the Polish PlusLiga. It is time to dig into one of to dig into one of the very best men's volleyball club leagues in the world. It is club season. We are back. We are ready to go. My name is Rob St. Clair, live from Chicago. That is Everett Delorme, live from Toronto, Canada. And that down at the bottom of your screen, there he is a very special guest, an original member of the Volleyball Source community. Straight OG. He's actually one of very few people still posting high quality content on Reddit of all places. But Mr. Paweł Adamczyk, aka Adanos, welcome back to the show, live from Warsaw, Poland, my friend, for the third year in a row. It's great to see you, buddy.
Hello. It's great to be back.
You sound so nice. We got a little upgrade in your headset this year.
Yeah, finally.
The people have been asking for it. So the people have been looking forward to this one. This will be the first in a decent series of club league previews. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about the PlusLiga, all the teams, how the league works, all the major storylines. But Paweł, first and foremost, I want to give you the platform to talk about just a little bit about Polish volleyball right now and to tie us in from post-Olympics and the success of the Polish men's national team winning Olympic silver, and now what that means for the PlusLiga, if anything, in your opinion, and kind of just like set the stage for another year of PlusLiga volleyball, because Everett and I have had the debate a lot the last couple years of, is the PlusLiga potentially just straight up the best league in the world? And so it's an important conversation, and we want to hear your thoughts about it from inside Polish borders. So give us like a State of the Union address for Polish volleyball right about now.
So, yeah, Olympics, we finally beat our curse because we've lost in quarterfinals so many times, and we also often didn't look our best. And if you look at our road to the Olympics, we've won the medal at probably every tournament. And even with Heinen after 2018, we were also consistently winning medals, but then failed in Tokyo. And this year we didn't look like the most amazing team in Paris. We had our issues. We had some worse games, and we could have lost like to Brazil in group stage and potentially even get eliminated before getting into quarterfinals. Then Slovenia didn't deliver. So, and we definitely could have lost to USA in semifinal because it was an insane game. So finally, getting a medal is like a huge success, and I think every member of the team and Nikola Grbić himself would take it before the tournament started as a major success. So I think all in all, the Olympics was a success for us. Some of our players showed their quality, mainly Fornal, for example.
Oh yeah.
Kuba Kochanowski was very good. So we basically established that we still are the top team, and even though we could have won, it's not a big deal because a medal is a medal, and after such a long break, it's a big success.
Was that the reaction from the media as well? After the Olympics? Was that the reaction from the media as well? Like, was there an expectation from Polish media to win the gold medal in Paris, and was it viewed as...
Not really. No, I think we were really happy with a medal. Like, all players were happy and media was very satisfied, even though, and especially in our situation when we've almost lost our libero, and we've lost Mateusz Bieniek. Norbert Huber was potentially injured, had an issue with his knee, I think. So we had a lot of problems, and the fact that France looked really, really good in that final, so it looked like we didn't have what it takes to beat them on that day.
Yeah, it looked to me like the real media outburst was after that quarterfinal win over Slovenia. Like just the emotion from Polish media that were there, from ex-Polish players, from like everything that I could see. It seemed like just a massive, massive weight off the shoulders of everybody related to Polish volleyball, and that was good to see because that has been one hell of a curse. No matter how much the team or whoever tried to deny it. But it was pretty real, and it's good to see that Polish volleyball has passed that and is on or near the podium where they belong. So what does that mean to you in relation to the PlusLiga? Does that boost the appeal of the PlusLiga for this year? Are there more eyes on volleyball in Poland because of the Olympics? Because we typically see that bump in a lot of countries, especially the ones that do well in Olympic volleyball. So like what's the mood around Polish volleyball like a month after that Olympic medal?
I mean, it definitely won't have a bad effect. So we had a break to rest a little bit from volleyball nowadays. So after a month of basically not watching a serious game because friendlies or preseason games are not like super exciting, fans are a bit hungry to watch something.
Good.
Which is definitely a good thing. And after another successful year, people will definitely tune in and try to watch. So I don't think it will have a massive increase because volleyball is popular, and people who watch PlusLiga watched national team, and a group of people who didn't watch like PlusLiga in past probably won't watch it right now. But there is probably a group of people that will take a look at PlusLiga and start to watch it. Maybe not from Poland. Maybe from outside.
Well, we the timing of when we're doing this preview is something, and depending on some things that might get announced very, very soon about the potential reach of the PlusLiga outside Polish borders. It's a bummer that we can't talk about any of those things just yet, but hopefully we will very soon. By the way, you all should join the Volleyball Source Discord. We have not just Pavel, but a lot of very knowledgeable Polish people in there that are going to be watching a lot of PlusLiga games this year.
Very knowledgeable people in general.
Right. And not just Polish people, but across the board. So if you like volleyball...
If you guys knew of the volleyball heavy hitters that are lurkers and even people in the Discord, it would blow your absolute minds. It would blow your absolute minds. And here they are getting taught about Polish volleyball on the regular by Adanos. So
let's go. So let's talk about the PlusLiga. Let's talk about how this league works a little bit, and then we can set the stage for a couple things before we start previewing each team. So the format here is as it was last year. The calendar, though, is a little bit different. And Pavel, I wanted to ask you about that. There are 16 teams in the PlusLiga, which is absolutely enormous. That's also been a topic of conversation. Double round robin format. So each team plays every other team in the league twice. That's 30 regular season matches, which is part of the reason why the league has already started as of early or mid-September. Top 8 teams, which is the top half after I'd say the regular season, as we would call it in North America. Top 8 make the playoffs. The dead last place team gets relegated. And now I was very excited to learn earlier today, Pavel confirmed this for me, but we're back to real series in the playoffs. Last year, because of that time crunch in the schedule, they were playing like Champions League style 2-match series in the quarters and the semis, and that sucked.
So garbage. Terrible.
Yeah, that sucked. But from what I was reading on the PlusLiga website today, it looks like the quarterfinals and the semifinals are going to be best of 3-match series, and the final and the third place series will be best of 5-match series. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Fantastic news. Yeah, that's much, much better.
Jazda.
Yeah, we're going to learn some Polish vocabulary here on this show too. Top 3 finishers in the playoffs qualify for the following year's Champions League, and also there's a couple more events sprinkled in there, including the Super Cup, which is coming up in about 2 weeks, and the Polish Cup, which is a unique tournament that happens in the early part of 2025. So, Pavel, tell us about the schedule, about like basically compare last year's PlusLiga to this year's PlusLiga as far as the calendar is concerned.
Yeah, it's much, much better. It starts earlier and finishes later. And if I remember correctly, if everything goes according to plan, which it won't, but that's another thing, we will have only 2 midweek games for every team.
Really? So it's going to
Yes.
be much less like last year where there was practically a game
Yeah,
every
so
day.
there will be time to play Champions League or CEV Cup or any other game or Challenge Cup games. And teams will have time to train, so it will be much better than it was. Because last year it was like teams played twice a week for a whole regular season.
Yeah, last year was absurd. If in case you weren't following last year, anybody watching, just because of last year's Olympic qualifier schedule, like going into like October, the PlusLiga started much later, and then because of this summer's VNL being early and the Olympic schedule, the season had to end much earlier. So it was the same number of matches, but everything was so much more condensed, and it sounded like the players did not like that one bit. So I'm sure they're pretty happy to have things spread out a little more.
First game of previous season was on 10th of October, so it's like 5 weeks later.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big difference. And then last but not least, a really important thing to keep in mind for all of Polish domestic competition, that's the league playoffs, the Super Cup, the Cup, whatever, is the domestic player quota or foreigner limit, however you want to contextualize that. And it works a little bit differently in the PlusLiga than it does in the Italian league. And Pavel, step in if I get this wrong, but instead of the Italian league where it's based on who's in your starting 7, in the PlusLiga, it's about the 6 players that are on the court at a given time. And of those 6 players, 3 must be domestic. And I use the word domestic instead of Polish for a reason that we'll get to in one of our teams.
Yeah. And there is at least one team off the top of my mind that uses this rule really well. So they have 4 foreign players in starting lineup, but 3 on court at the same time.
Right, because I think I know the one that it is, and it's something that Zaksa has done the last couple of years, where they had two foreign middle blockers and a foreign libero, but there's only 2 of those players will ever be on the court at the same time, so they could have 2 foreign middles, a foreign libero, and 1 other foreigner, and still be in compliance. So it's a little different than the way it works in Italy in that respect.
Yeah, that's how it works in Polish volleyball.
Anything else to share, Pavel, about just how the PlusLiga works and why you then like just things from within Polish borders that you think it's important for our international audience to understand?
Challenge system for sure, because coaches can challenge whatever they want and whenever they want. So it's not like at FIVB, so or international events in other countries. You can just wait until the rally ends and then call a challenge, whether it's for a floor touch or anything else. Basically, you can challenge everything, and after the rally is over, you can go back to whatever you want.
So no mid-rally challenges, thank goodness.
Yeah, that's really good, and I think it's really helpful because, like, right now, you just continue to play. You don't argue with the ref. You don't stop the game to take a challenge and potentially lose the point. You just play, and after the rally is over, you go back to whatever happened and then check it on camera.
Is there a limit to how many challenges you can do in a set?
Just like in tennis, so 2 challenges. Every missed challenge is you lose a chance.
Okay, so
if you are correct, you don't lose one. Yeah,
cool.
So that's standard.
That's excellent. That's a really nice system. I've always been impressed by how the PlusLiga has done stuff like that. All right, what can you tell us, sorry, Pavel, one thing that I really like to show as we do these league previews is the map, because geography and travel and scheduling and all those things matter in just how the league is presented and how teams go about their business. It's really good context for how people consume some of these games. So we have the map of Poland here. There are a couple changes in the map this year. Obviously, there's we have teams outside of Polish borders, which is Barkom Lvov, who we'll talk about a little bit. And then we have a team that's relocated, a franchise that is kind of merged with another and moved up north a little bit, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But what effect, Pavel, would you say that Polish geography has on how this league works?
Well, it's kind of obvious because we can see, like, in the south part of Poland, we have a majority of the team.
Right.
And
why?
why is that?
Well, and I have a follow-up question to that as well. Why is it most of the better teams, the best teams, are all in small towns? Like, it seems like there's one hotbed for Polish volleyball, and it's all in smaller towns in like the southwest of the country.
Yeah, south, because like if you look where is Będzin, Jastrzębie, Zawiercie, and Częstochowa, it's Silesia, so it's very rich part of Poland, and it's easier to find sponsors there compared to other parts of the country.
Okay.
Volleyball is also pretty popular, mainly in South Poland historically, so that's another reason. And why small cities? Because it's less competition there. Like in Warsaw, you have to compete with Legia in soccer, Legia in basketball, and some other big clubs. And then you look at Nysa, for example. Stal is their biggest club in the city, so city is more willing to help them financially. Sponsors are more willing to help them too. And if you look at who sponsors the teams, it's like a big government-owned company, which basically wants to like make their public image at least better for local people, and they sponsor their clubs. And usually these companies are pretty rich, like Jastrzębie or Grupa Azoty in past in Kędzierzyn-Koźle, or PGE, so Skra sponsor in past and now, or Asseco in Rzeszów. So that's like how it works, and that's why it's so popular in smaller cities. And basically, despite how popular volleyball is in Poland, it's still not the most popular sport in the country. So
Fair enough.
So they have to find a way, and that's how they do it.
That's true of every
Classic
country.
volleyball.
Right?
Classic volleyball. Even in our most popular countries, we're still not the biggest sport or even close to it.
Yeah.
Hey, we're working on it. Doesn't mean the PlusLiga is not a kick-ass product, because it is.
You're not wrong.
Last but not least, speaking of geography, this is something that we definitely have to talk about related to current events in Poland and geography, and it's already had an effect on volleyball. This is an actual photo of, I think it's either Nysa or a town very close to it. There is some substantial flooding happening in southern and southwestern Poland right now. It is bad. There is lots of damage. It's having massive effect on a ton of people, a ton of businesses. It's affecting volleyball. So first and foremost, that sucks, and we send the best that we can to everybody in Poland, our best wishes. There is a link in the description of this video that's like the official link to donate to flood relief in Poland. If you have the means to help out, definitely click that. But Pavel, can you tell us what it is that's going on here, and how significant is it really, and how rare it is? Because it sounds like it's like historic, all-time ridiculous levels of rainfall, and it's kind of shut half the country down.
We had a historic flood in 1997, which was called like Century, like the water of Century, and this is very similar to that one. So basically, it's insane amount of rain, like 1/3 of what goes from the skies per year in like a week. So it's hard to be prepared for something like this, and it hits mainly South Poland, like next to Odra, and smaller rivers in smaller cities. As you can see, as you can see in this picture, like it was impossible to stop it, and at the moment, South Poland is fighting against it. Some cities have already been flooded, and now the water is going away. Some cities that are a bit further down the road for the river and are currently fighting it. And some cities are at the moment preparing for it. So we will see how it ends, but it's definitely a big problem. And when it comes to volleyball, we've seen Stal Nysa already rescheduling their games because Nysa was hit and might be hit even harder because they are fighting at the moment, like right now. The flood is around their city. And it's all about our infrastructure, because we've seen some parts of our infrastructure failing, and even one dam broke, So, and this is where one city was, well, maybe not destroyed, but hit very heavily. And the same thing happened in Czech Republic, like in Ostrava. So it's a big event, historically, like 27 years after another one. And, well, I mean, we will have to deal with what happened and probably prepare so we won't get hit as hard in future. We will see what happens in Wrocław, because this is the biggest city that was hit in past, and the water still didn't get there, and they are right now, like, we will see because how well they are prepared, because they claim they are ready, but we will see.
Well, yeah, water is really, really powerful. Flooding is no joke. And yeah, we send our best to everybody in Poland. If you have the ability to donate, there's a link in the description to do so. All right. We are almost ready to jump into the teams. I think last thing to do is I wanted to ask Everett this, just to kind of contextualize club volleyball in Poland and where it stands amongst the rest of the world, because at the CEV Champions League level, and just like the talent and just the way that the sport is presented in Poland and by the PlusLiga, we are very impressed by in a lot of ways. So, like, Everett, can you like explain to the people why, or the arguments that the PlusLiga has right now to be the best league in the world, whether it's on-court product or beyond that?
Yeah, I like how you basically answered the question for me by asking the question. I mean, yeah, like, the on-court product is incredible. Like Adanos said at the beginning as we were getting ready for this, like, there's not a lot of bad teams in Poland, and especially when you look at their foreigner rule too. Like, there's less movement there as there's less spots as with some other countries. So just leads to such quality play up and down. I mean, I think the fact that you do have, I know the teams hate midweek matches, but I do think that that's good sometimes, especially for those teams that aren't playing the European Championships. The fact that you have a broadcast partner like Polsat Sport that broadcasts all the matches
every game,
and really supports it and pushes volleyball. Like, from when Polsat didn't support volleyball and to where it is now, like, it's huge, massive. Like, the fact that you won't start one game until the previous game is done, it doesn't matter where it is massive. And just the promotion of the game that they put into it, the money that they put into it, and yeah, it's fantastic. And I can't wait to be able to watch it. I'm looking forward to the time when we're going to be able to watch it non-illegally. Because as anyone outside of Poland right now, the only way that you can watch the PlusLiga is illegally. So it would be great. It would be great if we could finish that or fix that. So yeah, for me, like, I think over the past few years, like, we've watched a lot of Italian league volleyball, and everyone, that's always kind of the first league that, especially people from North America, gravitate towards first. Like, it's always been the top league. But to me, I think that the PlusLiga is rapidly replacing that, because the PlusLiga interacts with this century.
Well said.
Yeah, I think there's certainly other leagues that are still stuck in the 90s and in the glory days. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what's to come from the PlusLiga this year. And every year has been more and more fun to get into it. And yeah, are we ready to kick things off with our number one team, or not our number one team, but our team coming up from
the first team on the list. We always do like to start at the bottom when we do these previews. The last thing I will say is, you kind of brought it up. As for how to consume the PlusLiga, if you're in Poland, it's easy. Yeah, it's real easy. It's every game is on Polsat in some place. I'm sure you probably already know where to find it if you're watching this. If you're not in Poland, we are hoping that in the very, very near future, there will be a way for everybody to watch games in the PlusLiga. That is all that we know about it and can say about it right now. But we are hoping that very, very soon there will be a way to do that, and that would be awesome. We've been wanting.
Yeah, we were teased about it some time ago.
We've yes, there are some people that have some insight. There have been some teases thrown out. Nothing's official yet, but we're hoping for.
Yeah, stop teasing it and let's just get to it.
Let's do it.
Okay. Let's just get to it, because who do we have coming up from the second league this year. We have
coming up
Będzin.
from the second league. We have Będzin, and I know Everett likes this team because there's a Canadian involved.
So he's already led them to one win. You got to love a good old McMaster Marauder legend.
Yeah, so shout out to Brandon Coppers. Yes, MKS Będzin is not really a stranger to the PlusLiga, by my knowledge. They've been around before. They won the second division last year. They therefore get promoted, as is the way in all these European leagues. And as we're doing this, it's Monday, September 16th. By the way, Będzin has already won a match. They've already won a match this season, 3-0 over Katowice, I believe. So it's a good example of what Pavel is saying, is that there just aren't that many bad teams in this league. The relegation race is going to be between teams that are competitive, and teams at the bottom of the table will steal games from teams ranked above them. So, Pavel, tell us a little bit about Będzin's history. I know they have a little PlusLiga pedigree, and what you expect from them this year, because as you look at the roster, the projected starting lineup, there's a lot of Polish dudes, 5 out of 7.
Yeah, I mean, Będzin was in PlusLiga in past. They were rather underwhelming team, like they haven't been in playoffs even one time, and they were always close to relegation fight before they finally got relegated. However, they have new arena. They finally have a new main sponsor, as you can see by their name. And they were very motivated to get back into PlusLiga after some time. And unluckily for them, they've won the second division at the worst year possible, because they get promoted into the hardest season ever to survive. And yeah, I feel like whoever gets promoted is in a very difficult position, because they are confirmed as a PlusLiga team after all PlusLiga teams make transfers, and they are basically like left to try to find someone or make some gambles. And last year Norwid Częstochowa was lucky because A, Radom was terrible, and
Yes,
B,
they were.
They managed to secure Dawid Dulski on loan at last moment possible. Będzin wasn't as lucky because, well, it looks like no one will be as bad as Radom was last year. That's one thing. And the only good player that was left, at least Polish player, was Damian Schulz, so that's who they've signed. And that's
good is a strong word when referring to Damian Schulz. It's a guy I've never liked very much.
I mean, yeah, he was very good back in his prime, so back when he was playing for Trefl Gdańsk around 2018, which is 6 years ago. But he was much, much better in Luk Lublin last year, so if he can continue that, and his first game of this season showed that he is closer to Lublin version of Schulz than the one we've seen for the last, previous 5 years, then Będzin has a chance to at least compete for survival.
Yeah, of course, the goal of any team that gets promoted to the top division in any league is to stay there. That is the context of all these first couple teams that we're going to be talking about, is stay in the PlusLiga. And you're right, it's going to be very hard. And that's a good note about the timing of the transfer market with when they were confirmed to have been promoted. That just makes building a PlusLiga caliber roster real difficult. I want both of your opinions on Brandon Coppers, because I've only seen him play very sparingly. Is he a guy that can take an actual offensive load for a PlusLiga team and help them to not get relegated? Because I know that was kind of the goal for Brody Hofer last year on Radom, and that didn't go super well, at least as far as his team was concerned.
I mean, for me, Coppers has been on this Będzin team now for a few years, and he's been one of their go-to guys for a few years. And I mean, last year they qualified through the second division, and the year before they were in the finals, and he's consistently been one of their top guys. So can he do it at a high enough level, with some of the top guys in the PlusLiga? Is he going to be able to do it against the Zawiercies and the Resovias and the Jastrzębski? I don't think so, right? Not at a super efficient level, but I think he can definitely hold his own with those guys. He's a big physical guy who doesn't necessarily play like a big physical guy. He's big and strong, and he's pushing 6'8", 6'7", 6'8", physical. has pretty decent ball control, can hit the ball really hard, but is more known for shots and stuff and stuff like that. So I'm very interested to see if we can just chat about Brandon Coppers for 2 seconds. I'm very interested to see what this year in the PlusLiga will do to him and his stock with the Canadian national team potentially. But I don't know, maybe Adanos, if he's seen him at all over the past few years, might have a better opinion than I do.
I wasn't watching too much Pierwsza Liga, but I can take a look at his stats, and last year was his best season. And he played there for 3 years, and last year he was averaging 50, almost 2% spiking with decent passing and loads of blocks and decent number of aces. So he was definitely their standout player back in Pierwsza Liga, together with Mateusz Rećko, so their opposite, who left to Zaksa. And I think together with Schultz, they can be pretty good offensively. And Coppers, for someone who is pretty physical, like you said, his passing is not terrible. He can pass the ball, which is pretty important because, compared to Brody Hofer, it's a big difference. Brody's passing was bad.
Yeah, I also don't really like that comparison either. You have Coppers, who's a long time.
Yeah, they are at different stages.
Yeah, who's played for and lived in multiple years. Whereas Brody was coming out of his first year with on a terrible team with a terrible coach. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah,
Coppers
they're only in somewhat similar position, and they are both Canadian.
Yeah, I mean, Coppers was a pro before Brody was at Trinity Western. Coppers is quite a bit older than him.
Yeah. Well, it's a good start so far for both those guys, like you mentioned, Coppers and Schultz. 16 for Coppers, 15 for Schultz. Coppers' numbers are good. I mean, 37% efficiency, good reception, 2 blocks and an ace. Now, Będzin did get kind of a softball re-entry to the PlusLiga, playing a Katowice team that I personally am pretty low on. But there's a point in the chat that I want to address, and I'm sorry if I didn't know about this coming in. Are there 3 teams relegated this year?
Yes.
3.
Yeah. 3 teams. Yeah, that's why this is the worst possible moment to get promoted.
Wow. So you need to get 13th out of 16 to stay in the league. I mean, I know there's been a lot of conversation about 16 teams in the PlusLiga being too many, but I didn't realize that was official.
Yeah, it was official almost a year ago.
So the PlusLiga will be 14 teams next year?
Yes.
And they'll still promote the winner of the second division?
Yes. Winner of second division still gets promoted.
Ouch.
That
is tough.
Such a gauntlet.
Wow.
Such a gauntlet.
Well, every point for those lower ranked teams matters even more, and Będzin already has 3, so good for them. Give us one more player to watch on this team other than Schultz and Coppers, who might be the main scorers.
I mean, main scorers? I don't know. I feel like Depowski played in PlusLiga many seasons, same with Pająk and Olenderek, but they all failed to keep a job in PlusLiga team. Maybe Pająk had some offers, but they chose to go to lower division and fight for promotion. Siwicki looked decent, but Todua was pretty bad, but he probably will be their main middle blocker because, there is the reason why they've decided to take him in. They also have Serbian outside Tadic on the bench, someone more defensive-minded as far as I know. But, he didn't even start, and I don't think he is someone who will save them. They will rely on Schultz, Coppers, and some experience from Pająk mainly to survive.
Well, hopefully for them and for Canadian fans, they can pull that off. Are you guys ready to move on to our next team here?
I'm sure there's more Polish fans watching this team than Canadian fans.
Yeah. I'm sure there are too.
Yeah. Norwid.
Let's talk about Norwid Częstochowa. This team, like Pavel said, they got promoted before last season and they survived. Good for them. Like you said, they did have Dawidulski on loan last year. That helped. It also helped that Radom was terrible. But now they've had a full off season as a PlusLiga team on either side of the transfer window, and they've made some moves. And one that I personally like as an American fan is bringing in Quinn Isaacson to set. I love this kid. I absolutely love this kid. Out of Ball State, he quarterbacked a Saint Nazaire team in France out of literally nowhere to winning the French league last year, which was sick. I think they were the 7th seed. I think it was the lowest seeded team I personally can remember winning a major league title. So I really like him. And then the Milad Ebadapor signing is a good one, just as to be an experienced guy. But like my question, Pavel, is like, does this team have the firepower to not be amongst the bottom 3?
I think so. I mean, they have enough firepower to survive. I really like the signing of Isaacson as well, because like pulling such a good player, someone who was really good in France, to not a top Polish team, but a team that's fighting against relegation, it's a big move. Then we have Ebadipur, who I think might be not as good as we think. I think he was pretty bad in Russia last year. However, Lipinski was...
His game does not suit the Russian league. I was confused about that signing. But he played in Skra forever. Like, he's no stranger to the
but it was like after he picked in Skra, each year he was getting worse and worse before he left. So I don't have too high expectations out of him, but they still have Damian Kogut on the bench, who is pretty solid and had decent previous season. And I really like signing Lipinski because while he wasn't great for Skra, he had some really good games and he has experience playing for teams that fight for survival. And he definitely brings a lot of firepower. Then adding Indra, who was pretty good in France as well. It's like a very solid offense, all in all. And then they've got Polish libero, because last year they were starting with Takahashi, then he was injured, and their second libero was Jaskóła, who wasn't too good. So getting Masłowski is an upgrade, which allowed them to sign 3 foreign players on the wings and as a setter. Middles are, well, uninspiring. Like Sebastian Adamczyk was pretty good in Katowice. Nikola Grbit even called him to national team.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he was just training there, and I don't know why, but still, he is pretty good signing for Częstochowa. And then they will be relying on guys who were good in Pierwsza Liga, like Radziwon or Popiela, who started in most preseason games. But all in all, I think they have a lot of firepower.
And they have a Brazilian coach too, who I'm not familiar with, but that's curious. Is he new or was he there last year?
Yeah, he's new. He came from Praga, I think, from Czech team.
Okay.
And it was like a very late last moment signing because they were supposed to get Igor Kolakovic, who then signed with them and then left, which is probably a good thing in my opinion, at least. Then they've signed this Brazilian guy, which is like a gamble. Let's call it that way.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have super high opinions of Kolakovic on this show between Everett and I.
No, not at all. Honestly, guys, I'm interested to see this Norwid team play. I think that they're going to be one that can potentially get themselves out of the depth that is the relegation pit of the PlusLiga this year. Like you guys said, I really like Quinn Isaacson. I got to see him with the B team a couple of years ago for the United States. He's just a really good game manager, right? He makes really good decisions and he delivers the ball fantastically well. Sure, he's not really that physical, but he really makes up for it. I think Ebadapur's game really suits the PlusLiga a lot better, and he just has that all-around skill. You got Lipinski beside him, who's super solid and a veteran on this team. And then I really like Patrick Indra. Like, if I'm going to rate these teams, I don't know if I have Norwid in the bottom 3, but it's going to be close. Like they're going to have to claw just to get out of the bottom.
I kind of agree with that. I'd probably put them 4th from the bottom with my limited knowledge about these bottom teams. I just like this team construction. Like you have a veteran ball control outside hitter, and then Lipinski is a big guy who's 201. He can score. He's a little more physical, but he's also been around.
He's also got pretty good. I almost say that Lipinski's almost better with ball control. Like I would say that Lipinski's a solid passer and maybe not as physical hitting. So I think this team's gonna have good ball control all around.
Yeah, and just like on the topic of team construction, like when you have a foreigner limit or a domestic quota, whatever you want to call it, like you do in Poland, Italy, whatever, it is real common, especially for lower ranked teams, that you're going to have 2 domestic middles and a domestic libero. That is so common, because if you can afford foreign players, you need them at high volume positions that touch the ball as much as possible if you're going to try and not get relegated. So Pavel, that's something I really want you to tell us about all these teams, is like all of these domestic middles and domestic liberos that we never really know anything about. Are there any that stick out to you as being better or worse than the rest?
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably talk about it pretty soon, because guys like Mariański in Katowice or Czunkiewicz in Suwałki are pretty good, and they play for a pretty bad team. Masłowski was also pretty decent. Like, he was part of this famous 97 team golden generation with Fornal, Kwolek and everyone else. He had a big chance to play for Resovia as a starting libero even for some time.
Really?
Yeah, for a year, I think. But then he failed there. He moved to Radom, and he was like actually pretty decent. Last year he went to Cuprum when he was competing with Max Granieczny, who was loaned from Jastrzębski Węgiel, and didn't play as much as he could. So going to Częstochowa means he will get to play a lot. But I think he's like a solid PlusLiga level libero. I mean, him and Adamczyk are good. Popiela and Radziwon are players who has never played in PlusLiga, so it will be a big test for them. But they were pretty good in Pierwsza Liga, so there is a chance they will prove to be good signings.
Okay. Anything else about Norwid Everett?
No, I like this team. We'll see how they do.
Yeah, I kind of like them too. And I like the order of this, and the segue that I like is earlier this summer, in the very first week of Volleyball Nations League, when the USA sent the B team over to Turkey, the two setters on that team were Quinn Isaacson and Josh Tuininga. And by the end of that week, Quinn Isaacson was clearly the better setter, period, and the better fit for that team that week. Sure enough, our next team is Katowice with Josh Tuininga, who Josh has been in the PlusLiga for several years now on a bunch of teams. This is a team that I'm not super high on, and I'll reserve this take until the end of the season. But like, depending on just how bad Katowice is, what I want to watch with Josh with the ball in his hands in particular is Katowice bad potentially because of Josh or in spite of him, and that I'm a little curious about, and maybe even concerned by, as you compare him with another American setter on another lowly ranked team who's younger, and an interesting one there. But other than the setter position, Pavel, tell me about the rest of this Katowice team, because like when I see almost, how old is Alexander Berger at this point? When I see him in the starting lineup,
6,
and he dropped 2 and got pulled. In their first match too.
Yeah, and they got swept by Będzin in the season opener. That's bad.
That's bad. That's really bad. The only thing that can a little bit defend Berger is the fact that he played with his national team in European Championship qualifiers and came to Katowice like 2 weeks ago. So he wasn't with them for most of preseason.
I think a lot of teams have that.
Yeah.
I won't call it an excuse, but like, I don't know if I really care to hear that
and
from teams.
Their coach, like in interview, said that he really needs him because he's their only outside that can pass the ball.
Oh no,
which is not the best news because he's 36 and had some injuries last year.
Oh no,
I mean just a lot of left side struggles from this team. Like Bulgara, no idea who that is.
Yeah, I don't know who
starting
this guy is.
Yeah, he was. What was he? He was 6 for 20, and he passed 7.
Physical.
Yeah,
he's physical.
Yeah, very physical, but very bad passer.
yeah, we can see only 7%, 40% positive, 7% perfect on 15 targets. He got aced 3 times
against another bad team.
Another bad team, too. So I am not high on this team at all. Rob, I'm going to push back on that. I just think that, while I do agree that Isaacson is better than Tuininga, when you look at the numbers from the rest of this team, and once again, I'm going on for one game sample right now, Lukas Usovic, he was 10 for 12. He was 10 for 12. Who is it? Damian Hudzik was 4 for 5.
Okay, good middle usage. I like that.
And like everyone else, everyone else is, except for the 2 outsides, was way higher and they're opposite. Okay, so never mind.
So just the middles.
just well, no, it's like the guys who came in afterward did better than their starters, but that's a bad look when all three of your starters are doing good. Yeah, I'm not high on this Katowice team at all. I'm definitely putting them in the relegation group.
Yeah, they are my second favorite to get relegated. Maybe first now after they've lost to Będzin, because they don't look too hot. Bugera is probably, I'm just guessing, but maybe GKS Katowice just watched his one standout game last season when he led Norwid Częstochowa to a win against Resovia with something crazy like 70% spiking and some aces. And they've just pulled the trigger and signed him. The only good thing is they have Kisiliuk on the bench who can replace him and be somewhat decent, but is Kisiliuk good enough to help them survive against relegation? I don't think so. Same with opposite, Domagawa failed to take a starting spot from Jarosz last year, and Jarosz is
Jarosz is
old.
Very old. Jarosz is
and
very old.
He wasn't that good last season. I have way more hope for Gomułka, who is younger and had some decent games for Radom last year. And I think he's actually someone who can grow into a good opposite and someone who can hit at high volume and be pretty efficient. However, it's hard to rely on opposite when you have hyper-offensive outsides who cannot pass. And then their middles are decent, especially Usovic. Usovic was very good last year. So Tuaniga was using him in that game. He had 10 out of 12. That's a good result. But how to use him so much when your outsides cannot pass? It's a problem.
Bad recipe.
Yeah. It's this team, I don't know, it's super uninspiring, and the only thing I can see that can help them survive is Gomułka and Bugera getting going on a crazy development in this season and suddenly being offensive monsters carrying them throughout their issues. But
doesn't sound super optimistic.
No.
Nope, man. Yeah, with three teams getting relegated this year, I think this would take an absolute miracle. Is this club, GKS Katowice, is this the only multi-sport club that has a volleyball team in the PlusLiga?
I think so. Maybe some teams have have clubs in other disciplines, but they are Resovia exists in soccer or football, however you want to call it, but it's third or fourth division. So yeah, this is the only team that has a volleyball section, but it's not their prime focus.
Clearly not. All right, can we move on to our next team?
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about a very interesting one. Cuprum Stilon Gorzów, and this is, I don't know if I've ever really seen this in European club volleyball or kind of anywhere. As far as I understand it, they merged, this was Cuprum Lublin as far as the last year's PlusLiga spot is concerned, but they merged with a second division team and moved locations.
Yes, and moved there.
That is so fascinating. So they're not in Lublin anymore. Now they're in Gorzów, which is a little bit north, right?
Yes.
But they retained at least some of Cuprum Lublin's roster from last year. And I don't know. I'll reserve my take for the end of this. I want to hear what Pavel and Everett have to think about this roster. Vuk Todorovic setting Matisse de Smet, the Belgian at outside who played a little bit in Italy, some Brazilian opposite that I've never heard of, and the ghost of Robert Tott on the bench, perhaps. This team confuses me a bit. What do you guys think?
So I like it. I don't know if you've watched or even checked what happened, but Chizoba, their opposite, is absolutely the best signing they've made this offseason. He was on absolute tear against Gdańsk, and he was after 4 sets, he had over 60% efficiency.
I'm just looking at it now. Oh my God.
Yeah. It's the fact that Cuprum managed to lose 2 sets with Chizoba playing like that is impressive.
29 for 47, 49% efficiency, 31 points total. Who is this? Who is this kid?
amazing in France last year. So
What on earth?
Yeah, he's a big. Like we compared him a little bit to Bentara, but Bentara was way younger and not as good when he joined PlusLiga. I don't know how he stayed in France for so long, and I don't know how Cuprum managed to get this guy. But it's like their best signing, and I can see him becoming like even top scorer of the whole league this season.
Wow, is he like
After one game?
I mean, well, 31 is ridiculous.
I mean, he won't get rotated as much as players in top teams, and he will be set a lot. So
That's true. Yeah.
That's why I can see him being the top scorer of the league. And
is he is he in the Brazilian national team pipeline? Like, how have we not heard about this guy?
I mean, they have Darlan and Alan ahead of him, so that's why he didn't play a lot. But he was very good in France before he joined here, and if you look at his stats, like he was bad in tiebreak, he ran out of fuel a little bit. But if I remember correctly, he had like something insane, like 62% spiking efficiency after 4 sets.
Whoa. Yeah, you're right. He went 2 for 8 with 4 errors in the 5th. But yeah, man, he must have been unbelievable up until
after
that
4 sets. He had 29 points and 69% spiking with 64% efficiency.
Whoa! Oh my goodness,
like, that's crazy. And Trefl is pretty decent defensively, so scoring against them is not that easy. Of course, I don't think he will be as good whole season, but he should be their best player, and he should be what keeps them in the league.
So you do think that this is a team that can survive relegation? I mean, if you player like that certainly helps. And you beat Trefl Gdańsk in 5 to start the season, who made the playoffs last year. That definitely helps. What's going on? What's going on elsewhere? Because I personally, I do not like Vuk Todorovic as a setter. I'm not a fan of his.
No.
I mean, let's take a look. Like we've talked, Chizoba has 29 points at 70% spiking, and they are 2-2 after 4 sets. That's bad.
That's a good point.
And the only reason they've won 4th set is because he started to set Chizoba way more. So, yeah, his game management isn't perfect. Desmet was pretty bad. Kwasowski had a poor start, but woke up later on. So, I'm surprised their coach Andrzej Kowal haven't subbed in Tacht for longer. And okay. All in all, I think like they really need either Kwasowski, Desmet, or even Tacht to step up, because they can just sub out Todorovic and play Desmet, Tacht, Neves as Chizoba and swingers, and give Stempien a shot as a setter, because he's not great, but he's pretty solid. He won't be like terrible.
Yeah, I remember. Wasn't Stempien the backup on Zaksa?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought he was fine when Janusz got hurt for a while there.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to play for Zaksa as a second setter than for Cuprum, but still. And I mean, Kania was decent last year. Lipinski wasn't too bad. Strulak, their third choice middle, I guess, was pretty decent. And Max Granieczny is like one of our most talented liberos. So he's like 19 at the moment, and he played almost a full season last year.
2005, that's amazing.
Yeah, he's really, really good. I think he will be better this season, so he will play. Like, they should have solid passing with Granieczny, Kwasowski, Desmet, or Tacht, and with Chizoba to save them when they pass poorly. So yeah.
Tell me more about the combining of the franchises. Was this was Cuprum Lubin, the club from last year, were they losing all their sponsors and just like looking for somebody that had a foothold and an arena probably to like help them stay in the PlusLiga?
In a way, I mean, Cuprum was a team like with probably the least fans going to games. Like, their arena was almost always empty, and there was not a lot of interest. So the only reason this club existed was because a big company was in this city. And Gorzów is a city without a big club in any sport at the moment. So there was a big hole to fill. And that's how there was willing sponsors. in Gorzów again, so they've decided to just move there because there was not enough interest in Lublin and a lot of interest in Gorzów. And
well, cool. Good for
it
them.
was like an opportunity showed up, and they've decided they couldn't take it.
Good for them. Everett, do you remember? He's fixing his computer. I remember some pretty gnarly YouTube highlights from Robert Tott back in the day, like for Estonia and for, I think, played for Skra for him then, and he played for some random teams, like smaller, super dynamic dude. And I always kind of liked him just from this one highlight video that I saw. And then he just keeps bouncing around and keeps getting benched. And I have like an inflated image of him in my head for some reason.
I feel like he's one of those guys that's a really good practice player. You know what I mean? Like he's because he's springy and he's super competitive and stuff like that, but just can't necessarily get it done at the end of the day. For me, I'm not really too inspired by this roster. I think sure you brought in Chizoba and that's going to be interesting. I think I heard rumblings of him from the French league last year, but never really got a chance to like take the time and watch him. So now it's going to be interesting, but otherwise, like I think you've kind of just got a roster that's been a little bit thrown together. And like, hey, we'll see how they get the job done. But I'm not really inspired by this group of athletes.
I'm a little more with you. Now, I didn't know anything about this Chizoba guy until just now, but again, I'm not very high on Todorovic. I'm not very high on Desmet. Great, you have a really good young libero. Is that going to save you at the PlusLiga level? No. If Chizoba can take a ton of volume, great, and maybe lead the league in scoring, good for him. But kind of like Pavel said, I mean, he dropped 31 on sky high efficiency, and they still lost 2 sets. So I'm not as inspired by this team. I'm happy that they got a better just franchise situation and moving cities, and hopefully like rekindling a fan base. And if they stay in the PlusLiga, hopefully that can help with sponsors and all that. But like, I know I'm less educated on the matter. I don't see it with this roster.
No.
It will be hard for them, but I think it's not impossible. And yeah, choosing who will be the third team to get relegated besides Będzin and Katowice is very hard. Like, no one is standing out as the team that will be going down together with them. And Cuprum might be the team because their outsides are not great and Todorovic has a lot to prove. But what we've seen so far from them looks like there is a chance.
Oh yeah.
And I think they will. I think on Chizoba's back, they will somehow survive.
Okay, we'll see. Definitely a guy at least to keep an eye on. Let's talk about Ślepsk, Malow, Suwałki. This is a team that they only kind of popped up on my radar a couple years ago when they had Josh Tuaniga and Nico Szczerzen on the same team, and ended up being decently fun to watch. I can't remember if they squeaked into the playoffs or not, but as of recently, they've had Matias Sanchez, who's the shortest setter you will ever see, but is absolutely electric. He's like 5'8", if that, like by far the shortest player on Argentina whenever you see him. And then I like the pickup of Enrique Honorato, a guy who Everett and I met at the Nations League and liked. And then you get the Olympic gold medalist in Quentin Jouffroy in the middle. My question about this team, Pavel, are they going to have foreigner limit problems?
They will probably sub Gallego out for someone else, or Honorato out.
Okay, so like with what I have here on the screen, this would this would not be a compliant lineup,
this
right?
This would be not compliant besides like 2 rotations. But I think they will just not start Gallego.
Okay.
I guess. I mean, Jouffroy is a better player, so it's kind of obvious move. And unless they go crazy and start Kwahigro over Honorato, but it's very unlikely. At least early on, maybe later on, once they show something crazy in the league. But looking at this team, I mean, they will be closer to relegation fight again than playoff fight, just like last year, which is pretty bad because they have been in playoffs even. So it's like they are not going upwards, they are going downwards, and they are right now probably more worried about staying in the league than anything else.
Okay. Everett, your thoughts on, I don't know, how this is constructed, and like you got Sanchez, he's small. Honorato is
He's
relatively small.
I actually don't mind this team overall, Rob. I think that this team is going to be a really good control team.
They have to be.
They have to be. Now, I think it's, from what I've seen so far, I think that it's enough to keep them safe. But Suwałki for me has been one of those teams over the past few years that's just they've been a little dangerous at times. They've added some intrigue. They've added a little spice. I don't know if I see this team doing that just as well. To me, it's going to really be about how well Filipiak does.
Yeah,
right?
that's the key guy.
Like he's got to be their guy to really lead them forward, because we know Honorato's solid, but he's not going to be putting up a regular 20 burger, right? He's not going to be going up and dropping 20 on the regular. And I don't know anything about Pavel Halaba, so we're going to have to see how good he is to really like push this team forward. I think this team is solid, but nothing to write home about.
Yeah, Pavel, what's your take on Filipiak? Teach us about this guy.
Yeah, he's good. I mean, he has been keeping PlusLiga teams alive for ages. He was really good in Bydgoszcz for, I think, 3 years. He was keeping them in the league. Then he left to Gdańsk. He was really good there. Had a chance to be a starting opposite for Skra, but then got injured and they let him go. And found his spot in Suwałki, where he has been very solid for, I think, 2 years in a row at the moment. I think he's good enough to keep them afloat, but then, like, this team, at least I can see some kind of an idea what they are planning to do, because Honorato is a good passer. Halaba is okay-ish, he can pass, but he is not terrible. Same with the other two Polish outsides, like they are not terrible passers. So it looks like with Jouffroy and Sanchez, it looks like they are going to rely on Sanchez doing a lot of heavy lifting by giving him good passing and letting him do his magic. They should also be pretty good in defense because, again, Honorato, Czunkiewicz, and Sanchez are good in floor defense. And then, like, the offense will be all about Filipiak. Halaba is all right offensively, but he is more of a guy that is quick with decent ball control, but he is not super powerful or a big guy. So their offense will rely heavily on Filipiak whenever they are in troubles. And
that's maybe more extremely so with this team than others. I mean, a lot of teams rely on their opposite side of the system all the time, but yeah, with a guy like Honorato and Halaba, who I'm with Everett, I know very little about him. That seems to me like a team that's constructed to be just like a bunch of fast, fun toys for Matias Sanchez to play with. And then if that doesn't work, here you go, Filipiak, like do your best.
Yeah, that's basically how it looks like. That's what will be their plan most likely.
Okay. You think they survive?
I think they will, but if I had to choose someone like my second option behind the team that will come later, they will be pretty high on the list, probably second.
Okay. So for the record, you think your relegation teams so far are Będzin, Katowice, and one more?
Yes.
Might it happen to be this team?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about Barkom, Każany, Lviv, or Lwów as they say it in Poland. This is a Ukrainian team. This is a Ukrainian team that plays in the PlusLiga, which is why you see their stuff is in blue. Their domestic rule applies to Ukrainian players, not Polish players. I know as of a couple years ago, I mean, they're based in Lviv, which is just across the southeastern border, but did they train in Krakow? Are they like sort of based in Poland still?
Yes, they are still based in Poland. First season they played in Krakow, then they moved to Wieluń, and now they're moved to Tarnów. Tarnów is probably, as you can guess, pretty close to Śląsk or Silesia. And I mean, still not exactly in Silesia because it's between Kraków and Rzeszów, more to the east. But still, it's south part of Poland. And
okay. And
they
team-wise,
train there and play there.
Okay, I'm confused by I'm very confused by this team construction. I mean, last year they had the ability to get Luciano Polonsky, who we like and who was decently good, and Musa Gay, who's a pretty good middle. But now, like, what the hell is this? Like, what were their goals in constructing this roster? I mean, they have a Latvian coach, so he brings in a Latvian setter, who I know nothing about, and then they have the player that I'm most excited about on this team is Lorenzo Pope, who I think is probably going to be on the bench. Like, he is an Australian kid who has the potential to be a superstar. But other than that, like, Vasyl Tupci is a fine Ukrainian national team opposite, but like, I'm kind of with you. I think that there's potential relegation in the cards for this team.
Yeah, I mean, Petrov was there last year, and I wasn't high on him, but he was actually pretty much okay. Like, nothing great, but he was okay. And this time he has like a slightly better backup in Finnish setter Valima. And Polonsky was actually like probably the most disappointing signing last year. It looked like they signed him before he had great playoffs in France and national season with Argentina. And then he was like super disappointed in his choices and didn't want to go all out for his new club. He was like definitely not properly motivated and didn't have the best seasons, and they were relying mainly on Tupci and Musa Gay, who was like ridiculously good, much better than expected. So like this team is basically the same as it was last year, with changing like Gay with Fasteland, who is not as good and will definitely not have the same impact. And then Tamearu has to like basically make up the difference, because Kovalov was pretty mid. Szczurov had great first year, but last year he was pretty average. Pampushko is not great libero, so it's like all about Tupci. And whether at least one of outsides, whether it's Tamemaru or Pope, can help him out.
They only have one true opposite on the roster in Tupci, is what I was noticing. They have 5 outside hitters, and I feel like a guy like Pope can come in on. And
he's physical.
Yeah, he's big on the right side. But then they run into foreigner limit constraints.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. That's like the only issue I have is like Pope as a backup opposite. Okay, it makes sense, but like, who do you bench? I mean,
probably the middle.
Yeah, it would be middle. So that's probably how they will go about it, if it's necessary at all. But still, it's like limiting their options.
Yeah, we've got our boy Ozzy Tragic in the chat, who's from Australia, who's rooting for Lorenzo Pope. But
the only hope I have for them is the fact that Krastins, their coach, has been able to like take these weird teams they've built and make them look actually competitive and be pretty decent, winning some easier games, scoring some points against teams they have no business scoring against. And
I remember a couple of those weird games.
Yeah, I mean, they were at some point, like after 25 or 26 games out of 30 last season, it looked like they have a shot to make it into playoffs. But then they crumbled and finished 11th.
I mean, just to have a team from outside Polish borders all of a sudden come into one of the best leagues in the world and not get relegated for 3 straight years is pretty nice. And just like them being Ukrainian and Ukraine going through what it's been going through for a couple of years now, it's an easy team to root for. I just don't really see it in team construction. Everett, what's your take?
No, I just don't think that the players in equal players out on this team.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just like you're trying to moneyball this situation, maybe bring in some good guys, and I just don't really see it compared to losing guys. Like, I know Polonsky didn't have the best year last year, but he's still quality. He still showed up at times for this team, and it was a monster for them. So, yeah, I don't know if I necessarily have them in my bottom 3. I think I hate Cuprum more than I don't like Cuprum more than I, like that. Chizoba going off for one match doesn't really do it for me. How does he do down the stretch, and especially in the long PlusLiga? So we'll see with Lviv. But yeah, players in does not equal players out for this roster.
It's a pretty good take.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I'm kind of on board with that. All right, can we move on? I think from here on out, it starts to get pretty darn interesting, especially with this next team.
Yeah.
This next team finished 10th. Yes, that's right. The next team is Zaksa Kędzierzyn-Koźle. They finished 10th last year. They won 3 Champions Leagues in a row and then promptly missed the playoffs in the PlusLiga. And we spent a lot of time talking about them last year. They had serious changes in the middle of the season. They had serious changes in the offseason. The era of them winning Champions Leagues is very much over because they won't even be playing in Champions League this year. They still have the Polish national team starting setter in Marcin Janusz. They still have the American duo in Smith and Shoji. Just about everything else is different here. And then the worst thing that could have possibly happened to them happened in week 1. And that was Bartosz Kurek finally coming back to Poland and immediately getting injured. He got injured, in like the first set of the first match of the year?
Yes, first set. Just
a brutal break. And without him, sure, you bring in Rafael Shimura, who won the PlusLiga last year as JSW's second outside. You have Kitigoi, who's 19, who played well at times last year, but also had matches where he hit negative. The only transfer that I really like here is bringing in Andrea Gianni to coach him, which I was kind of stunned by. And this is going to be a great test of him, and couldn't be a more different team than the French national team, and that all he has to do with them is just kind of manage their personalities and let them go out on the court and do their thing. This is a team that Gianni is going to have to coach, and I'm curious about how he can handle that.
This Zaksa team is we take some experience, we take some youth and mix it all together and let Gianni coach them, because it's Poręba is not experienced, Urbanovic is very young, Redko came from second division, Kitiego is insanely talented kid, and then they have Smith, Shoji, Kurek, so guys with lots of experience, someone to show them the ropes and they help them develop. The thing I've seen so far from Zaksa is that Gianni seems to focus very heavily on playing way quicker to the left side.
Okay.
So something that Janusz wasn't doing in past, he wasn't setting too fast. But
that's what I was going to say. Is that a strength of Marcin Janusz in particular? He doesn't strike me as the guy.
He's not the guy who played very fast, but also we had Leon on the left. And
good point.
Semeniuk doesn't like really playing too fast, so it's not we had players who needed that. Meanwhile, Shimura really is really good at hitting quicks, and Kitigoi, for someone who is so pretty tall and very athletic, he's very good at hitting quicks too. So it's Gianni is making Janusz better, possibly. So in a way, making his life harder as a French national team coach, hopefully.
Yeah, by developing his rival setter. That's an interesting one.
But yeah, overall, I think this team is pretty decent. Nothing crazy, definitely not top 4 or medal winning team. But
what happens though now without Kurek? What's the latest on Kurek? How long is he out? What are their chances without him?
Officially, he's injured, but it's nothing very serious. He will be out for 2-3 weeks. Hopefully, it won't get any longer, because his injury is super unusual. He was hit by the ball into eye, and the problem is with his eye. It was crazy ricochet from, I think, the ball hit Shoji and bounced into Kurek's face.
Wow.
So definitely painful injury, but looks like hopefully it's true that it's nothing serious, just painful, and he will be back in weeks. They will play with Redko, who actually looked pretty decent, and probably transfer a bit more to the left. That's what I'm guessing.
Oh, interesting.
Kitigoi is someone very offensive, so maybe they will rely on him more.
Ooh, okay. So you're thinking maybe a position switch there. I actually don't hate that.
Yeah, Kitigoi can play opposite if necessary. He played last year, and I'm still really annoyed by the fact he got injured so early on last season, because during preseason he was absolutely crazy good, especially for an 18-year-old. Then he won Zaksa the Super Cup almost by himself.
Yes, he did. That serving late in that match was
and then got injured and sat on the bench for 3 or 4 months before coming back, and wasted his chance, because with so many injuries he would play almost every game if he was healthy. So it was like very bad timing to get injured. It's another unlucky injury, like Zaksa away in last season and this season so far too.
Yeah, seriously, they've had a ridiculous string of bad luck. Everett, we've talked maybe more about Zaksa than just about any other individual team since you and I have been doing this stuff on this channel and on our show. What do you project from this new like era of this club that we've gotten to know so well?
Rob, well, as you said, the Champions League era is done.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I consider them an elite team anymore. I don't know if I'm going to consider them like top half of the playoffs, and definitely not. But
top four, no chance.
Definitely not. But like, is this team going to be able to start competing at the level that they need to? I don't know. I really don't know, Rob. This might be one of the biggest unravelings we've seen. Maybe not the biggest, but I think they've got a decent roster here. Bringing in Shimura is all right. We'll see how Chitigoi can do. It really depends on Bartosz Kurek. If Kurek can be good, then they have a chance, right? But does he have that longevity? Like I haven't really seen it from him in a long time. Like I'll be honest. Like we see flashes of brilliance here, but for the course of the season, bro, like this isn't Japan anymore. Like, you know, like PlusLiga is, as we've talked about at the beginning, like arguably one of the best leagues in the world. So
and really, really demanding, and
really, really, really demanding. You're right. I do think that they've got bringing in Grabelny and Urbanovic is good. Losing Kluth, I think, was a big one. Like,
I've always loved Kluth.
Staple. Bartolome Kluth coming in off the bench was just such a staple. I mean, Adanos, you'd know better than I off of how good their backup is going to be, Reko. But you know, without Kurek, and I just really don't know if they're going to be. I just really don't know if they're going to be relevant. Like, I think they're going to be relevant, but I don't know if they're going to be relevant like that.
Relevant is a good word. I mean, this league is so good. There's so many more teams that have much better rosters on paper. I wanted to ask Pavel two things that are totally unrelated. First of all, what is Zaksa's like franchise financial situation? Because I know they lost their main sponsor in Grupo Azote. So like, how are they doing stability wise? And then the other question, totally unrelated, is tell us about this like setting project prodigy Kajetan Kubicki.
So I want to just mention that Kluth leaving is not an issue, in my opinion, at least, because Rečko is just better player.
Okay.
So better technically, maybe not as big, but also someone who can be like pretty useful in defense and blocking and has pretty nasty service. And he, according to other people who watched him more than me, he has ice in his veins, so he won't crumble under pressure, and he'll be very useful for a double sub or if necessary. And meanwhile, Kluth last year, whenever he had to play full game, was just bad. And there is a reason why he is going to play in Pierwsza Liga next year for Radom. About financial situation, Zaksa, even after losing Grupa Azoty, was secure. But by secure, I mean something around the level we see right now.
Okay.
And it's important to mention that Bartosz Kurek has contract paid separately by one of sponsors. So it's not like basically just like we will later talk about Leon. A sponsor really wanted to see Kurek in Zaksa, so they've decided, if you take Kurek, we'll pay for his contract. But now it was officially announced that Orlen will also sponsor Zaksa. They will have their logo on their shirts from next game, I guess. So financially, they should be really fine. And I'm pretty sure Grupa Azoty might be back sponsoring them once they're clean the mess they are in financially.
Okay. All right.
And about Kubicki, I mean, he missed last year, basically. He wasn't playing a lot for Cuprum, despite showing he is capable at PlusLiga level 1 year earlier. he is a kid who likes to go for creative plays, has very good service, but you can clearly see he's a bit rusty whenever he plays nowadays. So he needs to get more chances, but I think Zaksa will give him some, and opportunity to train with really good players might be more helpful for him right now. And whenever I saw him in preseason, he was looking better than in Cuprum, but nothing crazy. However, all in all, it looks like Zaksa is trying to repeat what they did in past by signing guys who are young on the younger side, not proven at the moment, but with some PlusLiga experience, they showed their quality. And Kubicki and Kitigoy are first guys. It looks like they are trying to get Kuba Havreluk from AZS Olsztyn as a libero in future. Then Urbanovic, Poręba, so it's a solid base to build around, and it won't be anything impressive more than top 8 in PlusLiga at the moment, but in the long run it can take them back to the elite level.
Well, there are few franchises that I would trust to build a team in the long term than Zaksa. So trust the process, so to speak, like the old Philadelphia 76ers. This team won't be nearly as bad as they were at the beginning of their rebuild. But Everett, could you see Zaksa making the playoffs? I could.
I could see them making the playoffs, but I could also see them not making the playoffs. I think it's going to be one of those situations. I think it's going to come down to the wire. And then also we have to think about injuries and stuff like that. Is this team going to be suffering any injuries? It just decimated this franchise and season. And
last year
decimated.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah. And then I'm also interested to see how Gianni handles all this. He's coming, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Gianni handles all of this. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting. Sure.
This isn't Modena. He's not a golden boy coaching his former team. I mean, Zaksa's had a new coach the last 4 seasons in a row at least.
They've kept Samovo last year.
A year and a half, and then they fired him in the middle of the second.
But besides that, they were changing coach every year ever since Grbić won Champions League with them.
Yep.
The first one.
So a very interesting one for sure. A franchise with a massive amount of history. Speaking of franchises with a massive amount of history, can we move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's keep it going.
PGE Skra Bełchatow. This was a team when Everett and I were getting into volleyball. They were awesome. This team was awesome. Mariusz Vlazwi is an all-time legend. Facunde Conte was there for a while. Nicolas Uriarte was setting them for a while. Great in the YouTube era of the 2010s when we were just watching highlights and didn't know actually anything about club. And then
wait. You didn't know anything about club. Yeah, you love to do that. Be like when Everett and I were watching volleyball. I was watching volleyball a good 7-8 years before Rob St. Clair was. So watch yourself. Don't you bring me down to your level.
Yeah, my level. Yeah, you're right. Then a couple years ago, Skra had a nightmare of a financial situation. I believe the name Nawrocki is probably cursed amongst their fan base at this point. And then they've rebounded well enough. I got to say, I kind of like this roster. I like this roster more than Skra rosters for a little while now. Obviously, they prominently feature arguably the greatest setter in the world, in Grzegorz Łomacz, which is a meme that we fell in love with this summer. They have 3 4 and outsides from which to choose, and then they brought in Amin, the big Iranian opposite, which I thought was an interesting signing. Limansky is a monstrous middle, and then they finally convinced Rafael Bushek to do what he should have done 10 years ago and switch to the libero position. That should have been done so long ago. And they hired Gheorghe Crețu, who I like. I really like him. He did an awesome job with Slovenia. So, Pavel, how close is this version of Skra to getting back to the versions of Skra in the 2010s that were title contenders?
We need some more time. Probably 1 more year. This is I would say somewhat similar to Zaksa. So a team that will compete for top 8, but probably not good enough to achieve anything more than that. However, they were close to getting completely done financially not long ago. And their sponsors decided to give them more money in very late on, once the transfer window was almost over. Then they've signed Cretu, and Cretu went on a spree because like Skra officially announced keeping Dawid Konarski, for example, and Benjamin Diaz, but Cretu didn't like this idea and had other plans, and he decided to get Amin, get rid of Konarski, get rid of Diaz, so he can have Polish libero, so he can play 3 foreign wingers.
So that was Kretsu's decision to do that. He gets hired and then has that level of influence over the roster construction.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Cretu is a coach difficult to get to hire him, because he left Resovia back in the day because he didn't have enough influence over transfers.
Wow.
And Sebastian Świderski said famously that he tried to sign Cretu 3 or 4 times before he finally came to Zaksa. So I'm pretty sure Skra just wanted a big name, and they found Cretu and basically let him do what he wants. So that's why he had so much to say, and his team was rebuilt even more after he joined. And looking at it right now, I mean, it's pretty decent, but it lacks talent to do anything more than top 8 finish.
Yeah, this team screams losing in the first round of the playoffs and not being super competitive
or finishing 9th.
Or finishing 9th, just like they did last year.
I bring a lot of comparisons between this team and Zaksa right now. Like 2 teams trying to regain their form, trying to be one of the top teams in the PlusLiga again. A lot of question marks on the left side for me. A lot of question marks on the left side for me. I love Kujundžić. Peric is
a loose cannon.
He is. He's a hammer who can go off or he can be terrible. And in the first match he was terrible, and they subbed him out. Luckily they have Giga Stern on the bench.
Who came in and was awesome. I'm just looking at it now. They beat Olsztyn 3-1.
Yeah. So and that's like Olsztyn's a pretty good team, right? So I'm interested to see in this team, and I'm mostly interested to see Amin. I really want to see Amin at this level, and already what did he drop in the first match here?
19, 28% efficiency, so decent.
Okay. I mean, he was opposite Jan Hadrava in his first match there, Rob. So
we'll talk about him in a minute.
Your favorite, right? Hadrava? Yeah, Hadrava was playing for Olsztyn.
Yes.
Hadrava was about 17, and Amin was 19. So yeah, I'm interested to watch this team, but I don't think that they're going to be anything to write home about.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we saw Amin a little bit get a legit look in Europe at Verona a couple years ago. Was that last year or 2 years ago? I already forget. He wasn't great. We'll see. We'll see how he can hang at the PlusLiga level. I think their outside hitter position will be a bit of a revolving door between those 3 guys. 2 of them are probably going to play well on a given day. Who it's going to be, who the hell knows? 9th seems about right to me. But if they squeak into the playoffs and play one of the title contenders in the first round, they'll get stomped and be on their way.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting that Kretsu had that many demands about the roster. Although, and as much as I like Benjamin Diaz, the libero that they had last year, spending a foreigner slot on a libero when you're in this position in the league is a difficult thing to justify.
Yeah, but would you take Amin and Buszek over Konarski and Diaz?
Maybe. I'm very low on Konarski. Probably.
Yeah, Konarski had a decent season, so
Diaz is very good. I really like him a lot, and I've always hated Buszek, but at least now he's playing the position where he belongs. It was a crime that Radom allowed him to play 6 rotations last year. That was tough.
Radom was a crime last season.
Sorry to our buddy Orzi from the Discord, who's a big Charney Radom fan. I'm with Everett. I really like Kujundžić a lot. And then the last thing I want to know about this team is the only thing that Grzegorz Łomacz has ever truly done well, is set the middle. So can Lemansky and Wisniewski be impactful on offense in your opinion? Either of you guys?
Depends what happens with Wiśniewski's health. I mean, he missed last season due to injuries. So if he is back to his top form, yeah, we can. Because he's kind of guy that can hit any direction really hard. It's pretty difficult to deal with. Mański is alright, but...
He's just huge. He's 217.
Yeah, he's huge, but he's huge, but he also moves like a huge guy.
Yeah, he kind of does.
He kind of does. And Szalacha, their third middle, is also pretty decent bench option.
Yeah, I like Szalacha. I'm actually surprised that he didn't start. I mean, he was pretty good on Zawiercie, right?
When he played.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like he kind of wasted his chance because back in the day, even Heinen called him to national team and he broke his finger, and after that he made some questionable club decisions and sat on the bench quite a lot. And now sits on the bench here. I think he could have started in a similar caliber of team.
Bummer. Everett, anything else on Skra?
No. We'll see how they do.
Yeah, we will. All right, let's move on to last year's playoff teams. And something I really want to point out about Skra versus the team that we're about to talk about. Skra last year finished 9th at 15-15 wins and losses. Indykpol AZS Olsztyn, who made the playoffs in 8th, finished 13-17, 2 full games worse. But because of all the 5 setters and the points, which are the primary tiebreaker in the PlusLiga, Olsztyn made the playoffs over Skra with 2 less wins. I just thought that was super interesting. And last year's Olsztyn team, I liked generally. They had Javier Weber coaching. The problem for them was that Nico Szczerzen got injured. And Nico is a buddy of mine. I love his game. He's their captain again this year. But if he can't play well or period the whole year, they are killed by the foreigner limit. And that's exactly what happened to them last year. And then for some reason, they decided to go for the significant downgrade from Alan Souza to Jan Hadrava. What the hell kind of a move was that?
I mean, Alan just left, and then they had to find another opposite. And they went for Hadrava because he used to play in Olsztyn for, I think, 3 or 4 seasons and was actually decent there. And I don't know. That's probably why they signed him.
Ouch. So I really like Amy Tervaporti. He was the backup on JSW a couple years ago as the setter, came in a lot in 6-2. Was that the same year that Hadrava was there? So they have the connection from a couple years ago?
Yeah.
So
I really liked Tervaporti and Hadrava together.
I like Tervaporti.
Tervaporti has the ability, he pauses his hands really quick, especially on the right side, and dishes it quickly. And I really think that helps open things up for Hadrava, especially with that leftiness.
Sure, I think that makes sense on paper until you talk about it's Hadrava that we're talking about. You also have Manuel Armoa and Moritz Karlitzek, both of whom are awesome, but really only one of them is going to be able to play at a time. I was a little surprised that Armoa got the start against
Karlitzek is injured.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. So he had a injured finger, I think.
Okay, that explains that then. I know that people rave about Kuba Havrluk at libero. I think he's quite good. I haven't seen him that much. Tell me about the middles, Pavel, as far as these 2 Polish guys, and then give me your take on this Olsztyn team again, and basically, can they make the playoffs again?
Kubishak had a breakthrough season last year. He's the guy who was big outside, and he didn't really deliver as an outside. He had passing problems. He was far from good on the left wing. So he transitioned into middle, and after 3 or 4 years of playing, he had his best season by far last year. He was very good offensively, had lots of blocks. His service was still terrible, but at least he made clear improvements. And
he's a middle. What do you expect?
Yeah, and I think he was probably maybe within top 10 of the middles in the league last year. Maybe even there. He was really good. He had a very good season. So keeping him was great because I think Jastrzębski Węgiel was even interested in him at some point. Don't know whether as a starter or as a third middle, but but he was really good, so keeping him is great. Then they have Ciechlik, who is like, to me, he's uninspiring. I really hope they will decide to start Majchrzak in future, because he was like our standout middle in youth teams back in the day.
Yeah, he's a 2004. So
Yeah,
I
very young.
I know nothing about him, but I saw a big young middle on the list and figured he might be a good prospect.
Yeah, he's a good prospect, and I think like maybe not the best prospect, but in his year, like 03-04, he was the best one, I think. So he should be pretty good when he gets a chance, and I think he will, like, maybe not immediately, maybe they won't get him a lot of opportunities at first, but he will prove himself and get a starting spot in future, because his competition is not the most amazing.
Okay, interesting. Everett, your thoughts on this Olsztyn team? Like, can they go to the playoffs again?
Yeah, I think so. For sure, I think so. I know you're not huge on Hadrava, but like I think he's been serviceable. Like,
that's putting it lightly.
Rob just like completely like omits all facts when he makes up his mind about a player. But overall, like I think the three out hitter scenario that you have, Karlitzek, Szczerzen, and Armoa, is young and like full of firepower.
Yeah.
Right, like you've got live arms on the left side, and guys know how to play. And I've always liked Emita Vaporti. I think he's a great game manager, and he's been in game matches in big situations. So I think Olsztyn is going to be a team that really comes together throughout. Now, how well Juan Manuel Barrial can do with this team after Javier Weber, like that's going to be a big one, because Weber is just such. He's just such a personality, right? And he's such a presence. So I know you're bringing in another Argentinian, but he's not Weber. So that's going to be a big one.
Yeah, we're a big Javier Weber fan club on this YouTube channel for sure. He's the man, and he's off to Japan, which is a bummer for Olsztyn. I have a couple takes on this team. I think their success is going to have to come from the service line. I mean, Nico Szczerzen is the guy who led the PlusLiga in aces a couple years ago. Armoa has a gnarly arm. Karlitzek has a gnarly arm, just like Everett said. And I think the area where Jan Hadrava is the most useful is from the baseline, because when you serve in volleyball, you don't have any blockers against you, which is the worst thing that Hadrava can see. So his arm is good. The reason why I don't like Hadrava on offense is because he takes blind, dumb, low, hard swings. He doesn't hit the ball high. He doesn't hit the ball with a whole lot of range. He just pounds the ball into the center of the block and takes his chances. And when blockers go too high on him, or when they leave bits of space, then he shreds them. But the dude doesn't kill the ball clean ever, because he can't. And when he plays against teams that are good at blocking, he just gets clamped a million times. But he can serve, and he's an overall like decent volleyball player. Like his ball control is okay. So I like Olsztyn's chances to win games serving. And then from more out-of-system offense on the left side than maybe any other team in the league. Like if they're chucking high balls to Hadrava, that is just not going to be a recipe for success for them. But whether it's Armoa or Karlitzek, those guys can score out-of-system. Like they are physical enough to score points legitimately with range in those situations. And then Szczerzen is just an all-around good volleyball player. So I like it. I like this team despite the Hadrava signing. I just think that their criteria for success are a little bit different than other teams, and I'm really interested to see them for that reason.
I mean, you know what's the first criteria for them? It's the same thing that happened last year, and it's Nicolas Szczerzen healthy.
Yep.
Because their bench is like so bad. Like I think either they have to sub a second setter who is not PlusLiga quality, as we've seen. They have to either then sub in Szymendera or Janikowski as outsides, who are not PlusLiga starters quality for sure. And now they have another option. They can sub out Hadrava for Gąsior, which sounds like the best possible option to play Karlitzek and Armoa, because Gąsior at least showed he can be serviceable at PlusLiga level in past, and maybe he can actually have a good game and be more useful than others. But
yeah, that's what killed Olsztyn last year, is when Szczerzen got hurt, they were just crushed.
And Szczerzen was hurt most of the season.
He was. Yeah.
So it's like
that's a
they
big
did
one.
it again.
It's the SpongeBob meme. How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? Till they build a roster that's not super fragile with the foreign limit. Yeah, we'll see. Anything else about Olsztyn from either of you gentlemen?
No.
All right, let's move on to PSG Stal Nysa. Made the playoffs last year in 7th after being was it the year before or 2 years before that they were downright terrible?
2 years.
2 years before. Okay.
Yeah.
So their ascension has been nice to see, and right now they are firmly in the eye of the very literal storm in terms of flooding. So it'll be a while until Nysa gets to play a game. I know their first 2 matches have already been rescheduled. So again, wishing the best for everyone in that part of Poland. The thing that immediately jumps out to me about their offseason is bringing in Dawid Dulski. This kid has been at least on my radar for 2-3 years, probably on like Polish volleyball radar for longer than that, but he's a big, long, young, skilled opposite. I think he was he the backup on Zawiercie? Is that when I first learned about him? Yeah. And then last year Norwid got him on loan and helped them not get relegated. And like this kid is seriously legit. He's like probably 210 tall.
He's 210
and is maybe 21 years old.
22, I think.
22. Okay, so like that's the kid for me. Like I'm expecting a pretty darn big year out of Dawid Dulski. And then the other one that I'm curious about that I know nothing about is this French kid setting. Kellyan Motepayes. Do either of you guys know anything about him?
As far as I know, he is good, but I haven't seen him enough to say like anything.
He's 2002, so another young kid.
Yeah, he was good in France, as far as I know, again. And he seems to be ready for a step up, and Nysa gave him a chance.
What do you think, Pavel, about the outside hitter position? I've seen only a little bit from Gierzot and nothing from El Graoui. I don't know anything about them, really.
I mean, it's the same as it was last year. They haven't made any changes. Gierzot is a big guy with bad passing who has very, like, his spiking reach is very high, but he is not too powerful. However, his spiking control is great. He makes so little errors. He very rarely gets blocked. And with his spiking reach, it's over to go over the block or just hit high hands. The issue is he doesn't have enough power with his spikes, so teams are often able to dig his hits. His blocking is pretty poor for someone of his size, but his coach was amazing middle, so I still hope he will find a way to teach him how to block better. The biggest problem with Gierzot is definitely his passing, and he didn't improve his passing almost at all since he joined Stal. Meanwhile, El Graoui is like this kind of balance outside, so decent in everything, but he is not like outstanding in any element. And last year he was very, very good against weaker teams, but he was struggling against stronger teams. So
okay. I'm noticing that this team has maybe more continuity from last year than any other team in the league. I mean, they have looks like 5 of the same starters, and they upgraded it opposite. Like they got Dulski, who's way better than Maciej Muzaj. I mean, fans of the channel know very clearly my thoughts about him. And then at setter, they just got way younger. I mean, Timofey Zhukowski is like, what, 13 or 14 years older than this Motepayes kid? So I like the continuity, and then an upgraded opposite on a playoff team. Like, that's good. But, like, can they compete with the teams above them? That's kind of my question.
No. I mean, we haven't talked about Trefl. They can beat Trefl, but the other 5, probably not.
Okay.
And then, like, their left side is not strong enough, and Dulski needs to, like, improve a lot to be competitive at, like, the highest level. He's good, but he still needs a bit more time and improvements. I think this team will be completely different with Paez than it was with Zhukowski. Like, they will play different volleyball.
Yeah, I mean, brand new foreign setter is always something I would have my eye on.
But he won't have easy start because Stal Nysa had the worst passing in the league for the last 2 years. So,
oof, ouch.
And I don't think it will change as long as they play Gierzot and El Graoui as outside duo.
And the off court situation too with the flooding is real tough.
Yeah, it's not helping them either.
Everett, what do you think about this team? Oh, we forgot to bring up our boy Nicolas Zerba in the middle, who we like.
Yeah, I like Zerba too. I mean, this team Nysa just continues to do what Nysa does, which is let's pick up a really, really good opposite, and we're gonna stack a bunch of pretty good volleyball players around him, and we're gonna like rise and fall with how good this opposite is. Like we saw it last year with Mujai, we saw it in the past with Bentara, you know, and now it's David Dulski. So yeah, this is like pretty much standard Nysa. I'm not as high as them as like an Olsztyn or a like Gdansk necessarily, but we'll see. You know, the Nysas, the Zaksas, the Skras, I think they're all going to hang out in the same area to me.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that they have such a young team, though. I think like Paez, Gierzo, Tulski, Abramovich, and maybe even Shimura are born in 2000s. It's like this team is like majority of their squad is in early 20s.
Good, real good for national team development as well.
Yeah.
All right, can we move on to the next one?
Yeah, keep her moving.
Yeah. Let's keep her moving.
Keep her moving.
Six teams left, and this is a really interesting one. Of all the teams, of all the possible teams in the PlusLiga who could have ever convinced Wilfredo Leon to finally come back and play in Poland, the last club that I thought that would be is Bogdanka Luk Lublin. I did not see this coming in the offseason, but it sounds like, Pavel, from what you were saying, that they had one sponsor in particular who was dead set on having Leon in the PlusLiga and on this team, and here he is. How soon will he play is a different question entirely, because he's taken quite a bit of time to recover post-Olympics. We'll see about that. Everett's boy Finn McCarthy is there, which I really like. Him and Alex Grozdanov is a legitimately awesome middle duo. I absolutely love that middle duo. And when you pair it, those two foreign middles with the foreign libero, it only really counts as two foreigner spots in the lineup, like we talked about earlier. I love that piece of it. And I know Everett, you do too.
Bro, sorry to cut you off here, Adanos, but I really like the composition of this team. Like you said, with that rotation in the middles, and Grozdanov and McCarthy, I think is...
It's nice.
Really gangbusters middle pairing that you got down there. I mean, Finn was already showing it a little bit this weekend. They picked up a really nice win over Zawiercie without Leon. I mean, Zawiercie didn't have Aaron Russell, so little tit for tat. But yeah, like when you look at this team and how they're built up, I really like them. Now, for me, it's all going to come down to Marcin Komenda. But yeah, we'll have to see. Adanos, what do you think?
Yeah, I really like the team. And even though, like, Leon came in pretty late, it's the obvious 1-for-1 sub, because just bench Sawicki and put Leon, who is the same kind of player, just better. And it's putting it very lightly. But yeah, I really like the fact they have two really good middles, because all good Polish ones were taken, besides maybe gambling on Piotr Nowakowski, who hasn't played for over a year. They kept Thales, who had amazing season, who was like one of the best liberos in the league. And I think Komenda is ready for this challenge. So I think they can challenge for top 4 this season, especially if Leon is healthy. By the way, Leon should be available in next game, but he might not play it. But he is back in training, so he should be available. The biggest question is Twinstra and whether he can be as good passing-wise and in defense as he was in last game against Zawiercie. Because they really, really, really need someone to pass, because once you go for Leon and Sawicki, it's like very difficult, and Komenda needs sprinter shoes or something, because he will have to run a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious about Benny Twinstra, just period. I mean, he didn't play all summer with the Dutch, and the circumstances around that were a little questionable. So that's an interesting one. I actually like Komenda. I really like the middles. I love the libero. I love Leon when he's able to play. Tell me about Kevin Sasak. This is the one guy that I don't really know anything about, although he was really good against Zawiercie. Well, good in volume, 22 points, 30% efficiency. What is this? Is that the type of opposite, like, that across from the court from Leon, to help them like really contend for top 4? Is he like that kind of guy?
He's better than Malinowski or Schultz was, but yeah, he needs to get improved a little bit because he's big. He's a very tall guy with very solid spike control, but he might have some problems at high pressure moments. Like, he was very good in first set against Zawiercie, then the score was in 20s and he made like an error instead of spiking well or something. And he also lacks a little bit of power. Like, his service is good but not killer. His spiking is also like, he doesn't make that many errors and he doesn't get blocked that often, but teams are able to dig him like a bit too much for him to be amazing. At least his blocking is really good, and for someone of his size that's expected. And I can see like maybe he can get a little bit better and like be more useful. And if he fails, they still have Malinowski, who is way worse blocker and in spiking a bit more unpredictable, but has great service. So at least that's something.
Okay, yeah. And somebody in the chat brings up a good point. Lublin's playing CEV Challenge Cup this year, and if they have a remotely healthy Wilfredo Leon, they should, in theory, win that tournament pretty easily, right?
I mean, maybe not very easily, but yeah, they can win that trophy for sure.
Yeah. Everett, I want to ask about Wilfredo Leon and what you think about the impact of him joining Luk Lublin and now playing in the PlusLiga. How does that affect your view of his kind of club career legacy? Like, is this a move that even like on-court achievement is necessarily his priority, or like is this like a business decision, or what? How do you view this as kind of like the perspective of Leon's career?
This is definitely a business decision. You know, as you guys said, like, there was a big sponsor who wanted Leon specifically and came in. Now, I know that Leon, like, obviously he's a Polish citizen. Obviously he has his own club that actually made a run in the Polish Cup last year, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So to me, I think it's 100% a business decision. This is LeBron going to the Lakers. This is him understanding that, like, hey, I don't know if I can just chase those top trophies anymore. Like, because he's won them all in a lot of ways, right? Yeah. Like, he's won so much stuff, and his next thing is going to be national team. So I think for him to establish himself within, like, once again, like, he's running his own club, so he needs to establish himself within the PlusLiga as someone, you know, and put in his time in that. So I think that we're probably going to see Leon play in the PlusLiga for the next 4 years, right? As he's continuing to try to be on the national team and try to make that one push for one more Olympics in LA. So yeah, I think this is actually probably a really good decision, especially too, because, like, if you look at the roster that Lublin's put around him, it's solid.
It's good.
It's really solid. Yeah. My biggest question on this roster is Marcin Komenda. Like, can he set well enough to lead this team to something special? Because I think in the years past, like, there's always been that those questions of, like, who's the best player on the team whenever it becomes involved with Leon, with all the injuries and everything else. But, like, now, like, you're telling me that Benny Tweenstra is going to try to big time Leon?
Nope.
No. Like, the same thing with Sasak. Like, I think all of these guys are going to understand where their priorities sit, and I think you're super solid down the middle. Once again, Grozanov and McCarthy are going to be sick, and you par that with Thales Haas, I think this team could bring in some special stuff.
I agree. I think this team's really well constructed, and I will say that Wilfredo Leon has dealt with setters a lot worse than Marcin Komenda. A lot worse.
Yeah.
Dragan Travica certainly comes to mind. I like this Lublin team, and it's just like it's funny because we think of Leon as being a Polish guy, having played on the national team for long enough now. Just funny that he's literally never played club in Poland, and now he finally is, and it's just not one of those historic franchises that you would have expected to have the ability to bring him in. But it really makes the PlusLiga a hell of a lot more interesting, and a guy that's massively important to Polish volleyball, playing for a team that's just kind of on the rise. So I'm excited to see it. Anything else about Wilfredo Leon's new team?
Yeah, I just want to add that I think he chose moving to Poland right now because he has never played here. Like, that was a big part of the reason. Of course, the financial offer was good, and he has long-term plans in Poland. I will agree with that, but I think if he wanted to choose the best financial offer, he would go to Japan like others.
Fair enough.
And that's it, basically.
Yeah.
And I really like the service on this team. Like, if you look at it, it's like McCarthy has nasty service. Leon, of course, is Leon. But also Sawicki and Malinowski from the bench can also help them.
Okay, yeah, good point. McCarthy's going to be one of the better serving middles in this league. Everett, I assume when you meant that like Leon going to Lublin is a business decision, it's more than way more than about just this year's contract. It's more about like the
sure
year
both.
Year.
It's both.
It's both, yeah.
Right, like if you've got someone who's coming in who's like, hey, I'm going to give you the most money of anyone else, that's a business decision, and it's a very valid one, especially in volleyball, especially for a guy like Wilfredo Leon and everything that he's had to go through. But on the same side, yeah, I think for him it's a long-term perspective of what he's going to need to do because like his wife's from Poland, right? Like he wants to build his life there. So what's those next moves?
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
McCarthy had 32 serve attempts in his first game.
Whoa,
let's go.
He should have been an MVP, I think, in this game. Like, his service has made difference. And especially in tiebreak, he had service run in tiebreak that made difference.
That's almost double the service attempts of anyone else on the team.
Yeah, he was amazing
crazy.
in this game. At least in service. He was great.
Way to go, Finn. Love it. Yeah, we're starting to get to the part of the league where you get some Olympic experience too, and Finn picked up some of that. Shout out Maples. All right, well, let's keep it moving. Let's talk about Trefl Gdańsk. I'm confused by this team. This is a team to me that seems to get a lot out of not quite so much. Their only two foreigners are an older setter and a libero from Finland. You have zero players with any current experience on the Polish national team. Jakub Jarosz is practically geriatric, and I like this. To me, doesn't look like a playoff caliber roster. Am I crazy?
Because it's not playoff caliber roster.
Great, not crazy. That's what I needed to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's like terrible. Like, I don't know what happened there, but this team is like looking terrible. They chose completely different direction than they did in past, and I feel like this will be very bad season for them. The only saving grace could be Alex Nasevich, so they're like second opposite at the moment because he's still not fully fit, and this is very promising opposite from like 2003, I think, as well, and he had some great performances last year, amazing service, very good swing. But without him, it's like almost like Jarosz, Kampa, the super old guys, then like Mbaye and more the middles who are nothing special, nothing to write home about. And then it's Orczyk, who had a serious injury, then was pretty much most of the season on the bench last year. And Kuba Czerwiński, who used to be a very promising guy, but then he injured his arm. And Moron that coached him in youth national team decided to play whole tournament. Like, he was a starter for whole tournament, despite not being able to spike because he had injured arm. And then his injury got worse. He needed like 2 years to recover and then sat on the bench in Gdańsk for 2 years. So the fact that he came back and actually played pretty good game last year shows that maybe his career is not over and he can still develop into a decent player with good passing. But any injury to Orczyk is an absolute disaster for Tref.
Oh, he's hurt already?
No, he's healthy. But if he gets injured, Tref is in like probably even relegation danger.
Oh my goodness, that bad?
I mean, look at this team. It's like they would probably play Jorna or Sobański, who was bad in Częstochowa last year, next to Jan Czerwiński, Jarosz, Mbaye, Mordil, Koika, and Kampa. It's like, who is scoring points?
Yep, that was exactly my question with this team: is who the hell is going to score you any points?
Like it's Orczyk, and Jarosz can score a little bit. With Orczyk and Nasevich, okay, this team is probably fine, like far away from relegation. But like, if anything, if Nasevich is not recovering fast enough and Orczyk gets injured, it's like a disaster for Trefl.
Yikes!
I think we're gonna have a disaster anyways. I do not believe in this team at all. I don't think they're out here to make the playoffs.
No.
Depending on injuries and what happens down the course of the road, this is not a good team. Like, Mortal should not be starting.
No.
He's good off the bench, but damn, like this is bad. This is bad.
Okay. I'm really glad I wasn't crazy. I mean, this is a playoff team. They got 5th. They had a good year, and then I just do not understand the strategy of roster construction. I totally don't get it.
When I was like making my like tabs earlier with all the different volley boxes of all the different teams, I thought I had clicked on Ślepsk. And I was like, yo, Suwałki got Kampa, good for them, like Kampa and Jarosz. And then I saw the logo and I was like,
huh?
Gdańsk.
Huh?
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing here? Yeah, so this is going to be interesting for sure.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I just hope they won't get hit with injuries and won't get relegated, because this club should be in PlusLiga. This is where they belong. They have the best youth system in Poland at the moment. Then they've won silver, gold, and gold in youth competitions and at Polish level, with completely destroying opponents at the youngest one. So, because I can see this team getting into relegation fight this year.
Oh no.
So,
yeah, I don't want that either. It's a good club. It's in a good spot. Like it's the only club really that far north, other than Ślepsk, I guess.
And Olsztyn, yeah.
And Olsztyn being up there. But yeah, I really hope Gdańsk doesn't get relegated. But if they were to, it would be hard to say that they didn't deserve it.
Yeah, complete change of strategy is like a disaster. Like going for, I don't know how to call it, like old, experienced, but past their prime players.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Over the hill, something we might say.
Yeah,
don't love it. Don't love it. I'm glad we're all on the same page. I thought I was insane looking at this roster. I'm like, what the hell club are we talking about here?
Yeah, it's like, look how they've massacred my boy. yeah.
Look what they've done to my boy.
Tough one.
Yeah. Keep it moving.
Yeah, let's keep it moving. All right, top 4. Getting interesting here. Asseco Resovia. The Resovia curse is well documented. This is one of the highest budget teams in the PlusLiga. They continue to blow it late in the season or in the playoffs every year. I love their offseason. I absolutely love their offseason.
You only love their offseason because of one thing.
I love their offseason because of 2 things. The first is getting Tomas Samelvuo. I love that. I think that's an outstanding move of coaching. The second, obviously, is finally kicking Fabian Žižka out the door and bringing in Gregor Ropret. I think that is an enormous upgrade at the center position. And sure, downgrade in the middle, losing Kuba Kochanowski. You bring in Bartosz Bednarz, which is good and helps you with a very good Polish player at the wings, gives you more flexibility. I think Ropret, this is all assuming that Stefan Boye is healthy after the really bad ankle injury. That assumed, this is a very good team. Is it like a title contending team that breaks the curse or beats good teams in the playoffs? I don't know. Maybe not. I'm not totally sold on the outside hitters, but I really like Ropret and I really like Samelvuo. What's the vibe, Pavel, within Poland about Resovia? Like, are people as surprised or impressed that they finally moved on from Žižka?
People are happy that they've moved on from Žižka, but are not impressed by Ropret.
Really? People don't like Ropret? I think he's really good.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think the biggest change between Žižka and Ropret is not in sports-wise, because Drzyzga can actually be decent when he wants to be decent, which is not often the case. But the mood of the team should be better with Rob Retidis, I think so. But this off-season, like getting Bednosh is amazing. That's a huge upgrade even over the Falco, I think. But Boye is also healthy. He played in preseason games. It wasn't too hot in these games, but that's not a problem. But losing Kochanowski is like a huge hit because they're
going to struggle in the middle. They're definitely going to struggle in the middle. I completely agree with that. But
Kłos is good, but they don't have second middle at the highest level, which can hurt them against other elite teams.
I agree with that. Everett, you've had the pleasure of rooting for a Tomas Samelvoa-led team the last 2 years. What do you think he can do with this Resovia roster?
I think that Samelvoa manages rosters very well. Like, he understands players and their strengths very, very well. And this team is all about power. Cebul and Bednors are just going to try to bulldoze through you. Boye is let's just go up and over the top. And even Lucas Vecina coming off the bench is the same thing too. So I think that how he can manage that power is going to be the big question for me and this roster.
Harness it, perhaps.
Harness it is a good way, but who's going to pass the damn ball?
That's a good question.
That's my question: is who's going to pass the damn ball?
I think we are go on.
Yeah, you don't agree with me, Adanos, or you do?
Yeah, I think their passing won't be as bad as we think.
No, okay. I guess we'll see. Cebul is all right.
Cebul had been pretty good in Resovia with passing wise, and Bednosh was really good passing wise for Zaksa last season. We don't expect, of course, something like defense specialists, but they will probably lose a lot of points to direct aces from opponents. But when they pass, they should pass at least at decent level.
Yeah, and they have 3 good, bordering on world-class out-of-system attackers.
Yeah, that's true. It's just I do like getting rid of Drzyzga. That's kind of one of the biggest things here. You're getting rid of Drzyzga, but and you're getting rid of Midday. You're upgrading in a lot of areas, but Resovia is upgrading to try to win a championship, right? Resovia is winning to win a PlusLiga, and I don't know if these moves bring him closer to that. And that's my biggest thing with this team.
I think it brings him closer to that. I just think that there are so many other teams in this league that are really damn good and maybe better. It's crazy because I do think that Resovia got better. I would still probably pick them though at 4th this year. I think the 3 teams that we're about to talk about are still better than Resovia and got better and maybe built on continuity or transfer talent or whatever. Just because you get Bednors and just because you get a better setter and a new coach that doesn't hand you a PlusLiga title with the other teams that are at the top end of this league.
No, I don't. I agree with that.
The only thing I can see is that Boye and Bednosh at their peaks are both crazy good, and it can be they can carry them even to the title. But
Boye, that the first half of his JSW season, wasn't it, when he was otherworldly
and
good?
Bednosh in playoffs and Champions League elimination games against Perugia was equally as good.
Yeah,
they need, if those two combine at one point, the Resovia will be probably unstoppable. But can it happen? It's very unlikely.
Yeah, harness, I think, is a nice word for what Samelvoa will need to try and do with this team. Real talented, but the Resovia curse is real. At the same time, another red and white team broke a curse earlier this year, so maybe Resovia is next. You guys ready to move on?
Yeah.
Get her going.
Let's talk about Projekt Warszawa, the team in the biggest city in Poland, which I like. We definitely like it when big major cities have volleyball teams and have volleyball teams that are good. And that's what this Warszawa team is. Like, I love this team. I love this team, and I like them mostly for the Polish, like the domestic talent that they have. I mean, Everett and I both like Firle. We both like Bołądź. The Kuba Kochanowski signing was enormous, and I completely didn't expect it. Szalpuk has had a career renaissance. Wojtaszek is totally fine. And then Kevin Tilly, Tobias Brand are great backup outside hitters. And Yuri Semeniuk is a legend. So, like, this is a well-constructed team with continuity, with balance, with size, with and then you get Kochanowski in the middle. Like, that's kind of the icing on the cake. I'm pretty darn high on this team, and they're playing Champions League again, and they can't possibly be as bad as the last time they played Champions League. Thanks, Anastasi. Pavel, your take on Warszawa?
What do you think?
I mean, if we are looking for continuity, then here we go.
Yeah.
They've kept basically whole starting lineup, and then they've upgraded with Kochanowski getting in there over, I mean, I guess Avril or Vrona, because they've played the most next to Semeniuk. So it's like they are better than they were last year, and it's clear. Their bench also got stronger with Brandt coming in. He's more balanced than Grobelny, and he can play next to Szalpuk and next to Tilly, unlike Grobelny, who, well, putting him next to Szalpuk was asking for problems with passing.
I have a hot take that I think that Tobias Brand might work himself into a starting position.
I agree with this take.
And mostly because I think that Kevin Tilly and Szalpuk are both very similar players where they're high ball control type of guys. Whereas Brand, we saw at the end of his season last year, and especially this summer with the German team, can be a high volume left side of attacker. But I love the fact that they have all three of them. So
yeah, I mean, it's possible. I mean, I think Tilly gives them way more in defense, in passing, and Szalpuk, meanwhile, is better offensively and block-wise than Brand. So they will probably keep their starters the same, but if any injury comes or something, Brand will definitely have an opportunity, and who knows, maybe he will take starting spot away. I really want to see whether Bołądź can continue to be as efficient as he was last year, because his numbers last year were absolutely insane.
They were awesome.
Yeah.
So I think he can, and adding Kochanowski in the middle. So with Firle, who is a good setter who loves to play creatively, giving him someone so good offensively like Kochanowski is a great addition.
Yeah, I love it. And they are not at all handcuffed by the foreigner limit and can make that Brand change if they need to. They can well, they don't have another foreign middle, but like they have options, and they have decent depth at every position. Like Linus Faber can be a gnarly backup opposite if he's hot. Brand is a great backup. Vrona is a great backup. Like, this is a well built volleyball team. But like, can they win a title? I think that's the position that they're at right now. Can they win a title?
I think they are missing like talent power on the left wing.
They're missing star power.
Yeah, star power on the left.
Right, I'm sorry, I love this team, but we're talking about the PlusLiga here. You need star power to win. You need some of the best players in the world, and there's only one of the players on this team that I think is elite amongst his positions, and that's Kochanowski.
Yep.
Everyone else is very, very good or good. Maybe even great. And if you look at Tilly, but no one is world class other than Kochanowski on this team, and you need world class players to win championships.
Maybe Bołądź, if he is less as good as he was last year, I think we could make a case to call him a world class player.
I agree with that.
If he continues to do what he did last year.
And Ozzy says they win their first title last year. Yes, it was the CEV Challenge Cup. Okay, nice, good job.
Yeah,
winning a trophy is always nice, but it was the CEV Challenge Cup, and like the way this team is built, they have higher aspirations than that. Also, I wanted to ask about, like, do people in Warsaw care about this team? Like, does this team have a following? Like, is this team like relevant in Poland's capital city, like culturally?
It's like they have fans, but it's not like the biggest thing in the city. It's much better than it was, because in past, whenever they played, for example, Skra, fans were cheering Skra, not their team.
That's
so
tough.
yeah, it was tough. Now it's as fans, it has some following. People are watching their games and they are cheering for Projekt Warszawa, not for their opponents. So it's better, but it's still not perfect. They won't play their Champions League games in Warsaw. They will play them in Łódź.
Really?
Yeah, because Warsaw has no great sport arenas, but they won't play at the big Atlas Arena. They will play at the smaller one next to it. So it's a bit weird, but still.
Yeah, that is a bit weird. This team's good, and I like them, and I'm excited to watch them.
I feel like their floor is insanely high.
That's well said. Yeah, they're not a team that I would think would crash and burn within a given match or within a season, and even they can survive an injury or two. So yeah, I like their floor. I think that's a good take. Can we move on? 2 more teams left.
Yeah,
All right.
let's do it.
Speaking of teams that I like, this is the team that I picked to win the PlusLiga last year, and I was almost right. Aluron CMC Warta Zawiercie. Zawiercie lost in the finals last year, and all they did this offseason was they went out and arguably upgraded at 4 and outside hitter and bringing in Aaron Russell, and they definitely upgraded at second middle blocker and getting Yuri Glader away from JSW, which is a move I was surprised by. Everyone else is the same. Tavares is a very good setter. Kvolek is terrific, especially last year in the playoffs. Butryn is an absolute bulldog who we love. Bieniek is world class, and Luke Perry, there's a chance that he might be the best libero in the league. I don't think that it's either him or Eric Shoji. I mean, Popivchak, Zatorsky, like there's some good liberos in this league, but Perry is way up there. I love the continuity. I love the Aaron Russell signing. I was actually surprised. I was talking to Aaron Russell in Ottawa, and he said this is the biggest contract that he's gotten in his career. And he's played in Japan the last couple of years. So that was like a pleasant surprise to hear. Now, I know he's back. I think he's back in the U.S. right now, like taking care of some family stuff. I don't know the details. So he didn't play in Zawiercie's first game. This is a title contender again. And I think honestly, I think they got a little bit better. If Russell stays healthy, that's obviously been an issue for him. But I love the construction of this thing, and I really think the sky's the limit in both PlusLiga and Champions League. Everett, you go first. What do you think?
I mean, Rob, like this is a team that could win it all. They really could. I mean, I think losing to Lublin so far isn't really an issue when you didn't have Aaron Russell on the court. There's a lot of depth on this team. Having Zanischel to come in off the bench, I love that. We do that fantastically last year. Kyle Ensing as an opposite, I love. Because you've got Butryn, who's a friggin' hammer, and he's just going to pound it in, and then Ensing, who's going to run fast, and even like Patrick Lau, too. So this team has all of those pieces. And I think, Rob, where the PlusLiga maybe still, and I think that this year, the PlusLiga, like we saw a lot of star power leave. Like we saw a lot of really good players leave specifically to Japan. Slivka to Japan, DeFalco to Japan, Polonsky to Japan. Like a lot of these guys going over to play in the Japanese league. And once again, I've got all these people telling me, oh, it's not going to make a difference. Japan's not going to be any good. No. It's already happening, okay? Yeah. You can see it right here. So you're starting to see that like the star power of this league just aren't like, out goes Kleveno, and you're not really bringing in someone to actually bringing in Aaron Russell. So
Aaron Russell.
I'm gonna take that back. But no, I really like this team. And I think they have the ability to beat JW. I really do. I think that that's going to be the top 2 teams in the league this year. And I think there's going to be a few other dark horses, mainly Lublin, just because I want to see what Leon can do down the stretch. But yeah, this team is really well done. They're sick down the middle with Glader and Bieniek. Ugh,
sick.
That's gross. I've always been a big fan of Yuri Glader. He just plays the game in a passionate way, and I love that. And Bieniek is a tactician. Butryn is a hammer. Miguel Tavares is arguably the most underrated setter in the game because he comes from a shitty national team country. So
right.
I apologize, Portugal.
Might be the best serving setter in the league as well. This is a gnarly serving team, and they were last year.
So they don't. I know they have no Bieniek and no Russell right now to start, and you're still able to hang with. So Yeah, I think that this is a team that's built to make a long run. This is a team that's built to make a long run at the Champions League. This is a team that's built to make a long run in the PlusLiga playoffs because of the depth that you have.
Awesome home crowd too.
Awesome home crowd. Like, you're going to be playing like that. Going to be interested to see if the young Iranian kid Mobin Nasri is going to get in at all. First year outside, but he was the best outside hitter at the U21 World Championships in 2023. So
good place to go train at the very least.
Once again, you've got a world-class hitter in Aaron Russell. You've got in Bartosz Kolek, any other national team in the world, he's a starter. 100%. Not a starter. Okay, sorry. Not a starter. I take that back, but he's on any other national team in the world. I would put him on Italy tomorrow, right? You're telling me that Fefe wouldn't love a player like Bartosz Kolek to be like P3 or something? Yeah, Kolek is a national team talent for sure. You've got Butryn and Enzing, fantastic pairing. Luke Perry, as you said, might be the best libero, arguably the best libero in the PlusLiga. And yeah, this is a very, very, very good roster.
I think Pavel's about to come out of the clouds and be a little lower on Zawiercie than we were. What do you got?
I mean, the only issue we have with Enzing on the bench is foreign players limits.
True.
They can figure it out. But they have to, if they want to sub in Enzing, they have to sub out someone else. And since their second libero is nowhere near as good, it's between Russell and Tavares, so it's not the best situation. It doesn't apply in Champions League, of course, but still. Subbing in, and their bench is okay, it's decent, but if they have any long-term injury, they are in trouble.
Yeah, what's Bieniek's situation?
The same thing he lost last year. The same injury, but to the other foot. Okay. But he's recovering, according to plans, and he's back in Zawiercie, I think, so he should be back to playing soon. They will probably save him a little bit early on, so sub him in, sub him out.
Which they can, because Zanisho is good and is experienced. They have this Markovic kid who's 2002 and is massive. So that's a nice guy to have in the gym. And do you agree that this is a title contender? Yeah, absolutely. They have Reisner as well, who was very good in Radom last year. So outstanding in such a bad team is also pretty good. I think they might loan out one of their middles once Bieniek recovers. Okay, yeah, they do have 5 on the roster. Yeah, so once Bieniek is back, they might loan out one of them. But this is the team with the best service in the league. We've talked about it last year, and then they replace Zniszczo with Glader, who serves even better, and replace Kleveno with Russell. So it's their service gets even more insane than it was. Then adding Russell is also pretty cool because he balances their offense a bit more. Last year, their left side was not super powerful on the high ball. Russell is basically solving that issue. And even though their back row defense and passing gets a bit worse, it's probably worth balancing out in that way. If there's one reason other than health that stops Zawiercie from winning, what do you think it is? Butryn, maybe. I mean, he has never really proven himself as being super clutch. And we've seen games where he collapsed completely. Last playoffs, he was very bad. He has, I don't think he had single good game in playoffs last year. And he ended last final game, which decided the title, in negative efficiency, I think. So for an opposite like him, it's a big issue, especially with Enzing in the back. So they can't sub him 1-for-1. So any bad form and bad performances from Butryn in key moments might be an issue. Okay. And I agree completely with saying that Tavares is super underappreciated. Basically the same with Perry, because they are from shitty countries. It's true. I think I'm pretty sure that I didn't really follow the draw of the World Championship pools because there's so many bad teams. I'm pretty sure the U.S. is in Portugal's pool, maybe with Cuba as well. Maybe. So I don't know. Yeah, whatever. let's move on. Last but not least, it's the defending champions. It's Jastrzębski Węgiel. They've won, what, 2 out of the last 3? Maybe even 3 out of the last 4? No, 2 out of the last 3. There were 2.
Of the last 3.
Yeah, there were 2 Zaksas in there. But JW is the premier Polish volleyball club right now. That is just a fact. They've been to Champions League finals, although they haven't won one. They've won those 2 PlusLigas, and I think they got better this offseason. I really do. Like last year, they won that title with the combination of Rafał Szymura and the absolute waste of space that was Marko Sedlacek as their second outside hitters. And then they go out and they get a duo of Timotej Karl and Luciano Vicentin, both of whom I hope will be serviceable. Both of them are better than Szymura and especially Sedlacek. And they replaced, losing Yuri Glader, they replaced him with Anton Brema, who I love, and they get a Polish opposite in Łukasz Kaczmarek. And then Fornal is just the guy. Fornal is absolutely the guy. That's that superstar power that Everett was talking about, an MVP of the league 2 years ago, and then last year's MVP of the league, and Norbert Huber, who had one of the greatest blocking seasons of all time. Good libero, legendary setter. Am I crazy? Did JW get better this offseason?
Yeah, I agree. I think they got better.
Yeah, I don't. This team is very, very good. This is a very, very good team. Up and down this roster, onto the bench with Vicentin, like upgrades almost everywhere. I would say, yeah, it would. This is a really good team. Like I think down the middle, Huber and Brema, sick.
Yeah.
That might be among one of the best middle pairings that we have in the world. It is really, really good. Huber's one of the best blockers in the world. Brema is arguably one of the best, like attacking middles in the world. Love that. Fornal and Karl,
so dynamic. Yeah, that's a great pair.
Like, man, this is a team that's really, really good all the way through. This is also a team that's been to 2 straight Champions League finals and looks to win one.
Yeah.
Right?
That's their plan.
Yeah, this could finally be the year. I mean, you've got 2 guys now that have done it before. I mean, Toniutti and Kaczmarek did it together on Zaksa in the first one of those 3, and Kaczmarek won all 3 of them. Fornal is an absolute superstar. They've got terrific middles. Popivchuk is a world-class libero. Like, I honestly don't know if I can find a weakness in this team, because last year I said that it was second outside hitter and they won it anyway, and then they upgraded that position. Maybe it's volume for Łukasz Kaczmarek. If I'm gonna like grasp at something, it's like, can he keep up good form for an entire season? Because last year Zaksa was a nightmare and injury and revolving door and whatever, and then he was kind of bad on the Polish national team this summer. So maybe he's got something to prove. But I like him paired with Toniutti, and I like the way this team can be balanced, and they're scary at all 5 attacking positions. They should be pretty good at serving. They should be tremendous at backcourt defense. It's difficult to find weaknesses here. So I'll ask the same question to both you guys that from Zawiercie. Other than injury, if there's something that stops them from winning a title, what is it? Pavel, what do you think?
I mean, maybe Zawiercie is like shooting at their second outside, whoever plays next to Fornal, and destroying him with service. But if they are healthy and they are playing well, it will be hard to stop them. Another big upgrade, maybe even the biggest one, is getting Finoli as the backup setter.
Oh, yeah. This is a team that likes a 6-2, and their backup setter last year was rough.
Yeah. I mean, they were saving themselves with 40-something years old backup from second division, which shows how bad it was. Now they have Finoli, who can be not only useful is in a double sub, because their second opposite is not so great, but he can just straight up be subbed in for Toniutti and be useful. Something that helped them in past with Tervaporti back in the day, and now they will have this choice again, especially if Toniutti getting older. He might struggle to be consistently great with so many games to play.
What do you think is one thing that could stop this JW team?
I mean, like good serving, like any other team in the world. It does look like a team that doesn't have many holes. The only thing that I might think of is like, no, I really don't know. Like after Kaczmarek, you don't really have much. It's like, yeah,
True.
don't know who that is. I mean, you're reaching a little bit, but Marcin Walensky isn't great after Vincentine and Carl and Fornal. But there's not much to pick at for this team. There's really not. Like, if you're going to beat this team, you're going to have to beat them. So that's like, I don't know if anything's going to like fall. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if there's going to be like one thing that's like, oh, this is going to be bad. But I think if you're going to beat this team, you're going to have to beat them.
Yep, I like that. Another team built to have a high floor. And I brought it up earlier, but I love their backcourt defense. I mean, a lot of what, I mean, Tomáš Fornal in particular, I think is a terrific position 6 defender. And I remember JW winning a lot of playoff games and being competitive in Champions League and all that down the stretch. I mean, I think it was the Ziraat Bank series, that second match they won, that where that series was actually competitive. I think they won it pretty much due to backcourt defense. Same with their Piacenza series. So I like the way this team's built. A repeat is very possible. I think a team like Zawiercie, if they serve the cover off the ball like they're built to do, could beat them, but they would have to earn it in a big way.
Yeah, also the blocking lineup is looking insane. I mean, imagine Fornal, Kaczmarek, and Huber standing in front row.
Yeah, that's pretty gross. And then, I mean, we always talk about Benjamin Toniutti being short, which he is, but for some reason, it never seems to hurt the teams that he's on that badly as like a blocking liability. They work around it really well.
Yeah. And Kaczmarek looked pretty decent in preseason. I think it's important to mention because he didn't look great in national team, but looks like in JW with Toniutti and Mendes, he's like on the road to recovery.
Good news for JW fans. All right, we did it, boys. We did it. We made it through all the teams. The only thing that is left to do is to pick it. We got to pick our winners, and we got to pick our 3 relegation teams. Let's start with the relegation teams because I think it'll be the easiest. Pavel, you've already got a couple on the record. Go ahead and make your final choices. Who do you think gets relegated this year?
So I will keep my choices: Katowice, Będzin, and Lwów.
Okay, Everett, how about you?
I'm going Katowice. Katowice, Cuprum, and who else here?
You really?
I don't want to say Będzin.
I know you don't. You don't want to pick.
But probably Będzin. Yeah, probably Będzin. Unfortunately.
All right, that was going to be my 3 as well. Będzin, Katowice, and Gorzów, and Cuprum, Gorzów.
Yeah.
I'll
maybe Lviv. Actually, no. I'm picking Lviv. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Ukraine. Can they even get relegated?
Sure.
Yeah.
Would they play in the Polish second division?
They are allowed to play in second division. So if they don't decide to quit, they can fight to get promoted back.
Okay. And then who wins? Pavel, who wins the PlusLiga in 2025?
I mean, the obvious option is JW, but I want to say something different, so I will say Projekt Warszawa.
Ah, okay. I like that pick. Everett?
I'm going JW. This team is built to win not only this league but the Champions League as well.
Okay, so you think they get the double? Maybe even they won't play Club World Championship because Polish teams have made it abundantly clear what they think about that event. But you think they
maybe
could go
they will
4
this
for
year
4?
with a different PlusLiga roster?
You think JW could maybe go 4 for 4?
Yeah, I really do. I think this could potentially be a big year for JW.
I'm going Zawiercie. I picked it last year. It was damn close. I think they got a little bit better, and I think they can do it. And I'm really rooting for Aaron Russell.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's it. We did it, boys. Pavel, thank you as always for joining us. This is long. It's late night there in Poland. We appreciate you very much, Dziękuję, and best of luck to everybody in Poland, especially with the flooding again. If you can donate, hit the link in the description. Enjoy the PlusLiga, ladies and gentlemen. We will be covering it on our show, The 9x9, here on this YouTube channel. You will want to join the Volleyball Source Discord. The link is in the description, where we'll be talking about the PlusLiga all year long. Everett, did I miss anything?
No, killed it.
Love you all. Thanks for watching. Adanos, thank you
Adanos.
again.
Thank you for having me.
What's thank you in Polish?
Dziękuję.
Dziękuję.
Dziękuję. Yeah.
You're welcome. I learned dziękuję and jazda today.
And
Let's
bulber. the only Polish word that matters. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back soon. Join the Volleyball Source Discord, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
All right. Peace.